All right, I think it's recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2DM's 1PODCAST 2.0. I'm calling it 2.0 because we've slightly upgraded our setups, and thus it gives rise to the 2.0 in the name. You know, we sound a little better, I hope. Anyway, my name is Dokuro Jim. I am here with the only kobold I know that plays video games, Daidari,
Hello.
otherwise known as my friend. Just my friend. And I'm pretty sure this is the only podcast on the internet where you can listen to two nerds talk about things that they're passionate about. I'm pretty sure we're the only one.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other
I don't think
podcast
there's
like
any
that.
other. Why would there
Yeah.
be? Why would people want? You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, I think all the other podcasts are story ones, like Magnus Archives.
yeah, indeed. Okay, you're just gonna name drop. Actually, John, if you're listening, I mean you're not, but if you are, hi. How are you? How you doing?
I'm
Doing
gonna have
good?
to get a picture for you for the gym, but the room I live in now that I've moved
Uh-huh.
has big old posters for each of the fears.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I turn around and I'm looking eye to eye with a big old murder pig for the flesh.
Very cool. But what do they do? What do they do for the vast? Just like a black poster?
The
Just like
vast, it looks like it's underwater with like a big old hand reaching towards like I think you can kind of see like a small person.
yeah, that's terrifying. But before we got on to the questions, because today's episode is going to be viewer questions sourced by our very lovely viewers from your Discord. It's going to be fantastic. But I just wanted to do a quick like life update, like how you doing? Tell the people what you doing. You know, get everybody up
Yeah,
on what is happening with the Jask and the gym.
I think that's an excellent idea. I can go ahead and take lead for this one.
Go ahead.
I recently moved.
Hmm.
The process was awful. Because okay, so we decided that we were going to move over the course of a day. It was literally not even a full day. It was literally we were going on vacation, and part of the vacation was we went south to our friends in Ohio, and we were going to stay there for a day, and then we were going to continue going all the way down to Tennessee. And then we get to our friends in Ohio. My fiance and her brother leave to go to dinner with their brother that also lived nearby. They come back and go, "Hey, Chuck and Fox, haha, wouldn't it be so fun if we all moved in together?" And they're like, "Yeah, I mean, we're down." And my fiance was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, that would be great." So then she looked at me and I just kind of shrugged. And she was like, "I mean, like, honestly?" And they're like, "Yeah." And we decided over that night that we were going to move down here. Within 2 weeks, our roommate, Trenton, which is also my fiance's brother, moved in down here, brought a bunch of his stuff. And then it was just me and my fiance still up in Michigan for another, week or so. And then we packed up the entirety of the house into a U-Haul, and by we, I mean mostly I packed up the entirety of the house into a U-Haul. My
Swole
fiance, of
Jask
course, helped,
arc.
but she is not the most physically strong person. And her
Okay.
grandma and her mom showed up, but they also are not the most physically
if
strong people.
if I may, you are
Yeah.
not the most physically strong person either. I mean,
So I don't seem physically strong, but I've got like this weird skinny muscle thing going on because like I can lift a crazy amount for somebody as scrawny as I am.
I think it has to do with the like surviving in the world that you
I
did.
was gonna say yeah, all the homelessness I went through.
Just like hardened your psyche and your powers. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it also is probably that I have like zero sense of self-preservation, so I will lift something too heavy for me.
It's just you know that okay, so you know the like I don't know if you've ever seen the like when normal people become superheroes thing, but like you know like the car fell on the son and the mom runs out and yeets the car off her son because like she accesses the 70% of her brain that is like responsible for muscle function and she doesn't use it. But then she was able to just like yeet the car off her son to save his life. That's what happened. You were like, they were like, Jask, we need to move, and you were like, I've got this.
Yeah, yeah.
Release restraint.
But yeah, we moved down here literally. So we got Trenton down here in less than a day, and we got me and Bean down here in less than a different day. So over the course of 2 days combined, we moved our entire lives. And originally, Bean and I were in a small room with a loud furnace, and Trenton, by himself, was in this nice big room. And then I brought up, hey, why do the two people living together live in this small room? And also, I do podcasts and other stuff. Like, my business is recording.
Talking.
Can I not be in this? Yeah. And then people were like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. So we're now in this room.
Well, that's good. And honestly, aside from the chair that I could hear earlier moving, like, your audio quality in the new room sounds fine now. I think it was just, like the beginnings of like your mic not liking to work.
Yeah.
But anyway, anything else that you would like to bring up before I start talking about myself?
I have enough room to actually warrant getting a VR system.
That's
now,
cool.
I can even use Trenton's because his room doesn't have like enough room right now.
But no, as far as me, I mean, I don't have really too much going on. I'm thinking about starting a D&D stream on Tuesdays. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that though, because it's a lot more planning, and I feel like I'd have to have like something really solid and set in stone before I started it. But your boy's just vibing, creating content with others, which is honestly what I enjoy doing. I mean, like, Ken had his kid, of course, if you know Odyssey of Eternity. He was on the podcast 1.0.
Yep.
And he had his first child, which is fantastic. And his games are on hold right now as he adjusts to fatherhood. So I haven't got to play D&D for a week, and I'm kind of like, is this what drugs are like? Like, when you don't have them? Because I'm just like, I want to play. I want to play. I want to do it.
I have an update on Ken's kid.
Uh-huh.
There was some complications. The kid seems to be doing all right now.
Mm-hmm.
But according to Ken, the child was essentially what happened. And this is like really breaking it down to like the nitty gritty. This is not like the full like medical explanation. So keep in mind that. But the kid took his first shit while he was still in his mom.
Oh. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing that can happen. And he got it into his lungs.
Oh no.
So he was drowning essentially in his own shit, from my understanding.
Oh no.
And according to the doctors, according to Ken, this was the most severe case that they've seen.
Oh no.
But the kid is fighting through it. He's 90% in the clear now. He's doing all right as of last time that they checked.
Yeah.
He's in really good hands, but they haven't been able to take him home or anything yet. Like, Ken's still just kind of like a bunch of hurry up and wait for it to see if his kid's gonna be all right.
Yeah, well, that's good that everything ended up just semi-okay. But everyone on the stream, or everyone who's listened to the podcast, or anyone who listens to this when we post it, how about you go give Ken some love, give Ken some give Ken some you're a good dad, give Ken some pats, some
Again, that'd be
virtual
Odyssey of
hug.
Eternity.
Yes, Odyssey of Eternity.
Yep.
And he is fantastic. Fantastic DM, fantastic friend of the show. But without further ado, let us move on to the real meat and potatoes, the real bread and butter of this podcast. That's going to be the viewer questions, and this is going to be like I said, the breadth of today's episode. So I'm actually going to start off the first viewer questions with viewer questions from some of my IRL friends. A couple of my IRL friends had questions that I wrote down, and I wanted to get to them before we got to the ones that the podcast viewers left, because I figured they'd be the meat of the podcast. But the first one is from my friend Parker, and he says, or he asks, what is your favorite thing in D&D, like race, class, weapon, spell, just your favorite, like, your favorite D&D thing? Like,
singular entity.
Singular entity of each
like if I
subject.
Yeah. All right.
And I'll let you go first, because I feel like your answer is going to be more interesting than mine.
So what you want to lead with strong foot and then end on the weak foot?
Well, so I mean, I always try to lead with my strong foot, Jask. You know that. But how about we just go down like race, class,
Yeah.
and then like into the more, superfluous things.
Yeah. Okay. So like I'll actually do it how I build a character, right?
Uh-huh.
So like I always start with the race first when I'm like filling everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually by this point I know what I'm doing. Once I like get to putting it on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So race, my favorite race is Tiefling. Though I was thinking about it recently, I haven't played Tiefling in so fucking long. I miss it. I'm gonna have to play a Tiefling soon.
Mm-hmm.
But it is my favorite race. I feel like that's actually kind of a boring answer considering I am, a queer person. Tiefling is just like a generic queer person race.
Yeah, no, it's just like when you're going down the list. Yeah, you're queer. Do you play Tiefling? Oh, yeah, okay, cool. What color?
If they say no, the next question is, do you play Asmar?
Yeah, what color? Purple? I knew it. You. What color are their eyes? White? You. Ooh. Are they blind in one eye?
I don't think I've played a purple Tiefling.
Yeah. Well, because Styx isn't a Tiefling. Styx is a Tabaxi.
No. Yeah.
Because nobody's a Tiefling, right? What color is nobody?
Nobody is a Tiefling, and nobody is like an off-red, mostly pink.
Ah, okay. That's the other one. That's the other one I think of.
Yeah.
That's the other color.
I have nobody, and I have Yorl. But Yorl's like the generic red Tiefling.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the next one.
Next would be class. No, sorry. Next would be background.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite background. Well, you know what? Actually, Hermit.
Hermit.
Yeah, that's another one I don't use a lot, but Hermit is really cool. As a forever DM who like kind of isn't that much of a forever DM anymore, the Hermit background has one of my favorite background features, which is basically just the hey DM, give me something.
Yeah.
Because like they get one secret that you talk to DM about, and it can be like anything. It's something that they've dedicated their life to learning. So like, when I brought Styx Fireseeker into a campaign late, kind of in the midway point, he had the Hermit background, and the DM gave me. I knew the ritual to bring a solar into the material plane.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how to bring like basically a minor fire god into the material plane. Now the cost and the like effort and the amount of other casters I would need was exorbitant. It would require like a lot of outside help. So it still put the power in the DM's hands to like stop me from being able to just do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool that my fire obsessed guy knew how to bring a minor fire god.
But you got to do it in the campaign, didn't you? In that campaign, didn't you get to do it? Yeah.
Because we were like working with a whole bunch of armies towards the end, I helped. I didn't physically have a solar on the battlefield like as far as we could interact with. It was another resource that went into like calculating the end result.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get to do it.
That's really cool that you eventually did get to do that. You know, this whole secret that your character had been like wanting to know, or like devoting
really
their
neat.
life to. What would be next? Class?
Class would be next.
Yes, class go.
Absolutely spores. It would be druid, but and then subclass is spores druid. I think I play more wizards than I play druids, and I only say that druid is my favorite class because it has the spores druid. Like wizard, I think if spores druid didn't exist, wizard would just overall have more things I like in it. But because spores druid exists, I like that I like druids all overall way more.
Yeah, and I think like druid is one of those things where I feel like people find their niche in druid because it's one of those classes where you're like, oh, I don't know about turning into animals, and then they're like, well, we got stars druid, and we got spores druid, and we got a wildfire druid, so you can have a little bit different flavor if you want, you know.
Like I love spores druid. I know that it's one of the weakest subclasses of druid. I still love it. My least favorite druid subclass is moon druid.
See, I think this speaks to the difference of players that we are, because I'm like, Moon Druid,
Well, of course, because you're like the min-maxer, right?
Shifter Moon Druid, 3 attacks a turn, yes!
Because like Moon Druid is like the strongest druid, like without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just going for like tank or damage, like if you're not worrying too much about like utility and support, it is the strongest druid.
I want to be bear and eat people. That's what I do. I want to be bear and eat people.
Its abilities also just kind of equivalent to you are the druid. It's the same reason why I don't like champion fighter. Yeah, you get an increased crit range, all this cool stuff of champion fighter, but it is just the fighter.
Just take one level of warlock. Just take one level of warlock.
Why? Like, or I could just build a more interesting character.
Better champion. Better champion. It's like here's my 12th level champion fighter. That's not a champion fighter. He's battle master with 1 level hexblade. It's better champion.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be next? Because class.
Yeah, that would be like race, background, class. I have a favorite spell?
Yeah. What's your favorite spell?
I don't know that I have a favorite spell. I do really like the like I don't know what to call them. The like safety creation spells.
Yeah.
Not tiny hut, but like the tower.
Oh, Galders and Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion.
Yeah, or like the temple one that the cleric gets. Like those are really cool just because like I mean Critical Role did an excellent job in campaign too, of really showcasing the like truly magnificent things you can pull off with that spell.
Oh yeah.
It's not game breaking, it's not like world changing, but it's lore inducing.
Yeah,
I love that.
It gives you a place for RP, it gives you a place that the wizard can like or any spellcaster really, but if we're talking about Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, and I forget what Caleb called his. It was like Widowgast's nascent nonagonal spire or something like that.
Yeah.
But he made like so much RP and so much backstory stuff happen because of how he made that tower. And I agree with you. I think that's probably one of my favorite spells. I don't think it's my favorite spell, but it's one of my favorites just because it's really cool.
Yep.
What about weapon? What weapon do you like?
I don't know that I have a favorite weapon. I can't think of any.
Purely on flavor?
I don't know. Just because of 5e, like doing the really boring thing of like, here's your list of 12 weapons to choose from.
Yeah.
Instead of like 3.5, which is like, here's 1 billion weapons. Most of them are the same thing over again. It doesn't matter. They are neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the weapons, I think I have ones that are just my favorite flavor-wise, not necessarily because they do big damage, but just because I like the idea of, yes, I am character with giant pick. Yes, I am character with whip. I am character with cool dagger. Like insert character with cool weapon here.
I do wish there was more things to make the whip a more viable weapon.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think there needs to be like a special, like what I would really like, and they sort of did this with like Crusher and Slasher, is give each weapon a feat that they're like, hey, you want to be really good with this weapon? You can take this feat, and it's only for this weapon, but you're good with these specifically.
They had that in 3.5 in Pathfinder.
Yep. I remembered specifically 3.5. I haven't played very much Pathfinder, but I remembered specifically at 3.5 because one of my friends had the longsword feat that let you like. It was basically like you could inflict bleed. I think where it was like the thing that the demons do, where they attack you and then you take damage afterwards, equal to some amount of dice.
Yeah.
What else would there be?
Friend,
go ahead.
Hold on, just really quick aside.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nick and I had a build in Pathfinder where we were essentially playing like gladiators together. And our character shticks were like his left arm and my right arm would be tied together and we would fight like that, right? Because we were gladiators and gladiator fights weren't supposed to be quick, they were supposed to be showy. We used these little like really shitty bladed weapons. But we had a feat that every time you deal a point of damage to somebody, they're taking a stacking amount of bleed.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first hit is only 1 point of bleed, but then the second hit is now 2 bleed, and then the third hit's 3 bleed. And because we're both fighters and we're both doing that, we were stacking so much bleed on the things and killing them so fast because like their turn would come around and now they're taking 6 bleed just because we both hit them with 3 attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It was so fun. But,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, sorry. Back to the question at hand. Favorite. What is next? Item.
Well, okay, so we did race, class, background, weapon. I guess item would be next. Like, 'cause item could bleed into weapon, but I suppose he just said favorite things. So I guess item, yeah.
Decanter of endless water. No question. Didn't need to think about it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I figured you were gonna say. And I've been reading about the stuff that people have done with a decanter of endless water, and I'm like, yeah, I see why Jask likes this now.
It's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I drowned a dragon that can breathe water with a decanter of endless water.
That sounds... That dragon did not have a good day.
No, it didn't. So essentially, like, it can breathe water because it has like gills, right? So I just bypassed the gills. I got into its throat, set the water or the decanter of endless water to geyser, and just aimed down its throat.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it drowned.
D&D, man. D&D. How to drown a water-breathing dragon. What else would be... Because there's item, and then... I think that would be the end, right?
But I do have one to, like, offer.
Okay.
Jim, do you have a favorite, like, move to make? Like, is there anything that, like, even if it's just one character that does it, is there anything that, like, gives you the happy juice the most? Or that you, like, really like doing?
When you say move, do you mean like one of the combat moves, or?
Here, I know my answer, so I can read. So you can
please.
See what I mean.
Yes, please do.
Ken mentioned it during our Rise of Tiamat game.
Mm-hmm.
If something is bigger than me, he has to be careful about describing it opening its mouth, because I will get in there. That is my favorite thing to do. If something is bigger than me, I will crawl into it and kill it from the inside. It is my favorite move to make, and not just in D&D, in anything. If I can manage it in Pathfinder, Starfinder, I mean, I haven't had the opportunity yet in Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk Red, but I mean, if it comes up, you best know I'm getting myself into a giant monster and blowing it up from the inside.
A big bonk, big thwack, big meaty punch. That
like sneak attack crit on a smite.
Yes.
Like you've already cast bonus action, highest tier smite you can from your spell list.
Yes.
And then you also crit with a sneak attack in there.
Yes.
And then you like pop on another divine smite to it.
Yes. No, that's my favorite thing, because I just imagine my character going ham. Yeah. And that is my favorite thing, when it's the part of the show when the character's like, "No, fuck you, I've had enough." Proceeds to just combo and just donk on somebody. That's my favorite thing.
The part in the anime where like they're like yelling plus ultra, and then like they hit the person and like everything's going black and white, and you're watching their face contort. And, like it like shifts to like the view of the person throwing the punch. Just their feet, and you can see them plant their feet in a certain way. You're like, oh shit, this got real.
Yeah, and then it shifts back to the supporting characters, so they're like, "Oh, nande da, oh," and then it shifts back, and they're like, "I'm gonna fuck it," and then they fly off, and then I'm just describing All Might punching the Nomu from the first season of MHA. That's all I'm doing, but that specific, like I get to dump dice on an enemy. That's my favorite thing, when I'm like, "Jask, that's 77 damage." And you're like, "All right." And I hear you like making notes and shit. I'm like, "All right, cool. Yes, I've done my job. My job. Now Beep can just stand there, because that's what she wants to do."
I really like that this also really shows like the difference in our playstyles.
Yeah.
Because like you really want like that big chunky amount of dice, and mine is just like, I just like Mine is I'm still gonna do the damage. I'm still gonna do the fight. But I'm doing it in a goofy ass way that's like role play intensive.
Well, I enjoy that too. Like, don't get me wrong. I love the,
Yeah.
I love the like. Hey, Jask, if I tie a string to this tree, and then we lure the ogre under this tree, and then I cast grease on the ground, and he slips and falls, and he grabs the thing for support, and then the tree falls on him, and he dies. Like, I like doing shit like that too.
Yeah. But I
But
think the difference is that like you're looking for like the most optimal way to also still while still including like role playing it, because like I don't from the way you're describing, I don't want any viewers who don't know you to get it twisted.
mm-hmm.
You still do role play.
Yeah.
You're an amazing role player. It's one of the reasons why I love having you at all my tables.
Mm-hmm.
But you also are looking for the most optimal way to get through a fight.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, I will die on the hill of throwing myself down this creature's gullet.
Mm-hmm. Jess gets swallowed, and I'm the one that has to cut him out of the stomach. Okay, that's just what happens. You know.
You know, honestly, of all the times I've thrown myself into a beast's maw, I think I've only died from it twice, and one of them was like I knew I was going to die. This was my character's last action.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. I mean, that's something to talk about. You know, like, hey, remember when I like got myself eaten by a dragon, and then I exploded it from the inside with like chain lightning or some shit? You know,
my favorite was activating a immovable rod. Like we were in a boat moving as fast as the boat can with like perfect wind and also using the oars because we're being chased by a sea monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, you know what, guys? This thing's faster than us. It's gonna gain on us. I've got this. I just jumped into the water, and a sea monster like opened its maw, and just as it's about to swallow me, I activate the immovable rod and like curl around it, and I die as I get smashed against its innards. But I also ripped the entire thing inside out.
Mm-hmm. Because it moved past the immovable rod. Yeah, so you basically cut it down the middle like a butter knife. That's good. I like that. But now on to mine, which will not be as entertaining as yours, I don't think. Hi, my name's Dokuro Jim. If you don't know me, my favorite race is human. My favorite race is human. Yeah, right. Didn't know that shit. No. So I have a tier list because there's 3 different like distinct types of humans in D&D. There's regular human that just gets a +1 to all attributes. That's my least favorite. That's my least favorite. Then you have the Dragon Mark humans, which the Dragon Mark humans, I've never played an Eberron campaign, which I feel like I should because I feel like I'd really like Eberron. But the Dragon Mark humans are my favorite because not only do you get spells, if you're a spellcaster, you get different spells. You get spells as you level. You get 2 spells as you level, depending on your mark. You get a special little thing that you can do with some of your ability checks when you're a mark human. And it's just really cool, because usually I flavor the marks as like something happened to them during birth, or like, you know, something happened to them that gave them the mark, or something like that. In their backstory. But oh no, my computer, is it still recording? Yes, okay, good. My monitors died, and I was like, oh no, they've stopped recording. Oh shit. Anyway, so but I really like the flavor of the dragon marks just because it gives me more to work with in like a backstory perspective. And then my favorite fucking human is variant human, because I like starting with a feat. And not a lot of DMs I know do the thing where everybody gets to start with a feat, which I think is one of my favorite ways to play Dungeons and Dragons, because, you know.
Honestly, if I'm reminded about it, I do like to do that, but I always forget to mention that, and then like, what am I gonna do? Just like 12 sessions in, when I remember, go, hey guys, get a free feat.
Hey guys, take a feat. Yeah, which, I mean, you have given me the greatest gift anyone can ever give a Jim, Jask, and that is the fact that I'm allowed to be a Dragon Mark human and start with a feat. So you've given me both my favorite things, like, because of Zizix, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
hello.
When Zizix comes around, remind me to like mention that everybody gets a free feat.
Yeah, I told my wife, So we're already like coming up with character ideas. She is frothing at the mouth with her new character. Like she's like, I am so ready to play this person. Oh my god. Like I know we're gonna do a session 0, but we've been talking about like backstories and things like that. And we are both ready to be in Zizix because I miss Zizix. I like Hekna, but I miss Zizix. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with just the amount of effort that you put into Zizix. And again, I mean, like Zizix is as much of your baby as it is like as Aeon Terra is mine. So like,
yeah,
it, you know, I can tell that there's a lot of effort there. You know,
absolutely. So I'm gonna give like the listeners an inside scoop on something that I don't think was ever mentioned in the time that you played Zizix with me.
I don't think so. Unless you told me.
Zizix in its original iteration, back when I was like 13 or 14, back when I was a wee lad, I do not remember the exact age, was very derivative of a already published work. It was I had read 2 different book series, had really loved them, and then wanted to like make a campaign with vaguely like similar ideas from one and like very similar ideas from the other. And then over the years, with me just redoing and changing things and stuff, it had become its very own clearly distinct thing that's not like you can, if somebody points out and you know the media, you'll be like, oh, I guess I can see that, but it's not like. But yeah, it was originally Fablehaven and Dragons of Deltora heavily influenced Zizix.
I know neither of those, so it's okay. Like the names are familiar.
Amazing,
go ahead.
Books. Yeah, they're both very amazing books.
The names are familiar, but I don't know any. So it's good. It's fine. I'm just gonna pretend you did it. Hey, look, that's Jask. Yay. Yeah, that's good.
I mean, at the point that we're at with Zizix now, yes, absolutely, it's 100% my own work.
Yeah.
But the original iteration of it was very derivative of those.
Well, no, see, I did the same thing. Like Aeon Terra, like the thing with like the augurs and the Bright Pantheon, that is very reminiscent of a D&D stream that I watched. I kind of like took that same energy and was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do my own thing with it, you know. And the like splitting up of the continents is very reminiscent to the way that another fantasy book split up their continents. But I try and take the base. Like this is what I want to do, the very like primal elements of that thing, and then shape them in a way that makes it my own.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what, like, to my knowledge, that's pretty much what everyone does, right? It's like, every DM ever will tell you, like, you find things that you really like in media, and then you borrow it, and, like, make it your own. Yeah. Don't just copy, paste, make it your own. Anyway, sorry, you have more things to say.
No, it's all right. We got on a tangent. That happens, you know? So, I did race. Background, that's difficult because I really like, there's a few I really like. I feel like all mine are going to be tier lists, but like Folk Hero, I really like that. I really like Haunted One. I really like oh my ass. I really like Noble. I really like Charlatan or Criminal. Bounty Hunter's good. I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting that I really like. I mean, Acolyte's just fun if you're playing a paladin or a cleric, or even like a wizard, like, you know, acolyte of a certain religion. I mean, like, I have a lot that I think are really fun. My favorite is probably Haunted One. I like Haunted One a lot just because it's like
really good.
Just because like some fucked up shit happened to me, man. I was there, man. I saw it. It came down, it got me, it took me up into the ship. Like, you know, it's that shit.
I really love, I love that the Haunted One's feature is that just like people look into your eyes and they know you've seen some shit, so they give you some shit.
And they're just like, oh shit, what did they do to you? What did they?
Yeah.
Ew, it's good. Here, take this sandwich and leave. Ew.
It's so
be gone.
to me.
Yeah, no, it's great. I like Haunted One a lot. I also like Folk Hero a lot. I feel like there's one I'm forgetting that I really like, and my brain won't let me not look it up. Hold on. We're just gonna.
I will while you're
go ahead.
Vamping. Folk Hero is another one that I really, 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 really enjoy. But like, it never like struck me until I made my character Godric Leroy, son of Jenkins Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, because like it's something to remember too is that so many people will forget when they're building their character that they are making a level 1 character.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like one of my few human characters. He was very human. Had the magic initiate or magic adept or whatever, basically giving them 2 cantrips and a spell. And it was guidance, shillelagh, and cure wounds. And he had the folk hero background. And the idea was that his father was a soldier, very distinguished, bunch of medals, did really good, retired, got a farm. Like he was so good in the military that they gave him a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then Godric was trained and raised to fight, but was always told, don't unless you have to. I'm not teaching you this to go join the military. I'm teaching you this so you can defend yourself. And then his farm got raided by orcs. Him and a bunch of farmhands are in the barn. His dad has already died, slain by the orcs as he like defended them. The orcs are breaking into the farm, or breaking into like the building that they're in. And Godric takes up a chunk of the wall and the wooden training sword his father had raised him with. And Shillelagh is a spell that makes a wooden club do magic damage. It's like a D10 magic damage, which is an insane amount.
Mm-hmm.
And so he leads the charge, essentially pulling a military maneuver with these untrained farmhands of just piercing through the enemy lines and then scattering behind them and running for the hills.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, farmhands die, but like plenty survived and then started spreading the tale of like, hey, we were dead. These orcs had us cornered, and then this man led us to freedom.
I like that. I like that a lot. Like, you have inspired me now, Jask. The thought of Shillelagh being cast on a training sword.
Right?
And like he doesn't use a sword, but he's using a sword.
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
So and the thing is that Godric didn't realize that he was using it. I talked to the DM, who was Ken, by the way, and the way it was working was it was his father's spirit. It was his father watching over him, guiding his blade. So when he led that charge through the encroaching orcs, it was the doors flew open. He runs in and he goes to swing on the first orc, and it's just like it's misaligned. It's not going to connect well. It's going to mostly hit armor, and unseen to him, the blade just starts to glow a little bit and shifts. And it was his father. And if anybody could see Ghost, they would have been able to see his father grab the sword and change its angle.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Guidance was his father helping him. He couldn't use guidance on anyone else, only himself. Same thing with Cure Wounds. I couldn't use it on anyone else because it wasn't him casting it. It was his father literally burning up some of his spirit to heal him.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Did you figure out what your...
Yeah, Pirate and Shipwright. Yeah. I was trying to think of the other two that I had. I love pirates. Pirates are one of my favorite. So to like things in media. So to write like a character who came from that background, I'm just like, yes, I enjoy. But Folk Hero and Haunted One are probably my two favorites. Even though I only have one character that uses the Folk Hero background, and that's Raze. So like, you know, I haven't played him very much, but I might. He exists. Yeah. Class is hard because I have a lot of classes that I like. Bard and Paladin are probably the two that are up there, just because I love Bard. My very first D&D character ever was a Bard. I love Paladin because I love playing lawful good idiots. Fighter's really fun, you know, if you can mix it, because you know Fighter's very basic. Even the more like Echo Knight and stuff like that, they're just Fighter with extra steps. Mm-hmm. You know, they're all pretty basic. But I still love playing a good Fighter. But I really like Bard
very well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I walk up, I bonk shit. That's, you know,
yeah,
that's what it is.
Rune Knight Fighter, I like. I did actually kind of like Echo Knight Fighter, but I didn't do it a whole lot. Like, I don't think it would catch me for very long. I could do a one shot for Echo Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do a campaign. I've never tried the Eldritch Knight, but I don't know. It seems appealing.
It's okay. Like I would much rather do like a fighter wizard build than do Echo Knight.
Yeah.
Or like
See,
fighter, yeah.
That's what always got me too. Is like anytime I did a Spellblade, it was not the Eldritch Knight. It was like Rune Knight with wizard levels.
Or Blade Singer with a couple of fighter levels.
I have never played a Blade Singer.
It's so much because it's just like I have all the AC. I have every AC.
Yeah.
All your ACs belong to me. My AC is 34. What's up? How you doing?
My highest AC wizard was Yorl, actually. Because he was a war wizard, which allowed him to just like as a reaction just shield. But it's not shield. It's the war wizard version of shield. So it's not even taking up a spell slot.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love wizards with high AC. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's good.
But that's your favorite class. So what's your favorite spell?
Yeah, my favorite spell. That's also hard. It's gonna be kind of a cheaty answer, but I really like Eldritch Blast. I really like Eldritch Blast. It's just good. Okay.
Well, so the thing is that it's like on top of it being a good spell, by itself, Eldritch Invocations gives Eldritch Blast so much flavor.
It's just good.
So much more you can do.
It's just I just do everything. I push you, I pull you, I do more damage to you, I make it so you can't see. I mean,
I had a character named Talus Arc whose whole fucking shtick was he was an Asmar who could fly, and past third level he had the ultimate Asmar thing where like instead of having like certain spells or stuff like that, you just get the ability of flight at third level. So he could fly, and he had the Eldritch Blast pull, and like a few other things. And so he would just like, if somebody was like, up on a tower, right, just shooting arrows down at us, he would fly up to them and just be like, "Hi," blast them, and then rip them off the tower to fall to their death.
Yeah. I mean, and then so the Eldritch Blast is I like damage answer. I love flavor answer. You ready for this one? Crusader's Mantle. I
love Crusader's Mantle.
Crusader's, because it's just like, all my friends are cool. Fuck him up. I love that shit. Like Eugene has Crusader's Mantle, and it's like the flavor where it's just like yeah, and then like everybody gets like okay. I'm gonna reference Legend of Vox Machina, but one of my favorite parts of Legend of Vox. You've seen it, right? You've seen all of it. Have you seen all of it?
No, but go ahead.
Okay, there's a part, and also spoilers for Legend of Vox Machina. There's a part where they're in Whitestone and they're fighting a bunch of zombies, and they have a bunch of commoners with them, and they're like, "Oh shit! Oh fuck! We're fucked." Pike comes back. Ashley Johnson's character, Pike comes back and casts Crusader's Mantle on all the commoners and the rest of Vox Machina. So all of their weapons start to glow and they just fuck up the zombies. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want.
That is super cool.
Just and then everybody fucking does shit. Like, yes. That one is my favorite flavor spell.
Wait, can I step in real quick to amend add an addendum to my favorite spell?
Go ahead.
My favorite non-official spell, and this is also kind of a bit of a cheaty answer, is one that I've made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's When All Else Fails.
Mm-hmm.
I love that spell so much.
Yeah, the one that makes you charge your character full of energy and explode.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's basically a failsafe because like it was made by Styx Fireseeker, who's like two biggest fears are going out in a boring way and not taking out whatever took him out. So he made a spell, it's a 7th level spell, that burns the spell slot. It can never be used again. But when you cast it, it just sets you up to explode.
That's fantastic. And a very you spell, I think.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But that's my favorite spell. My favorite weapon in D&D, I like in 5e at least. I really like any of the versatile weapons. because they just feel good. They just feel good because I'm like, oh, but I could do this, but no, I'm pissed. I grab my sword with 2 hands, and I proceed I proceed to end fucking, you know, like you know, you have this character who fights with a shield all the time, but it's like, oh no, I'm pissed. I grab my sword with 2 hands. I grab my warhammer with 2 hands. With both hands. I don't know. It just makes me feel good. It gives me the good juice. It just, you know.
Yeah.
And that's there's nothing else on that. I just like versatile weapons. My favorite item in D&D, that's another hard one. I really like anything made of adamantine or anything made of mithril, because they're just really good. Like, now I can't be crit, or now I can wear armor that I normally wouldn't be able to.
Man.
Yeah.
They did adamantine dirty in D&D.
Yeah, I've heard.
I read the Eberron books because like I don't remember much from because I never really used adamantine a whole lot in Pathfinder, nor in 3.5. I was mostly using the more exotic wild materials.
Yeah.
But like, I recently read one of the Eberron books, and there's this guy with like an adamantine dagger, and like it just slides through other people's weapons. Like, he's just fully cutting other people's swords in half with this thing.
Yep, so you can be like, whoops, your sword's dead. Haha, try again, nerd. Yeah, no. I mean, I like those just because of the flavor that they have, but I really like the Dwarven Thrower, or any of the sentient weapons, like Sunsword from Strahd, or like the one that you get from Zariel, and then the one that's in Wild in the Witchlight, like it's called like Silver or something like that.
I love sentient weapons. I hate handing out sentient weapons.
Yeah, well, because it's like, okay, now I have to play yet another character. I'm already playing the whole story.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And I will like forget about the weapon, and then we'll be like 4 sessions in, and then somebody will be like, well, I haven't heard from my weapon in a while. Is it dead? It's like, well, it's a sword, so probably not. But also, maybe it was just fucking quiet.
Yeah, maybe
he's content with the
maybe
murder.
he's just thinking.
Yeah.
But no, I love the idea of like character with talking sword that he has conversations with. You know, it tickles me. It tickles me good. I'm like, oh, my sword is my friend. You know. And I think that's it. My favorite monster in D&D is the Mind Flayer. I like the Mind Flayer. I like it. I like him. I like the way they look. I like what they do. They're absolutely goddamn terrifying. Like, them and the Aboleth, absolutely goddamn terrifying. I love stuff that is like, that's like, you hear it and you're like, oh shit, it does the thing. You know, absolutely. like any monster that takes away agency from the players, it's absolutely terrifying. Like a Mind Flayer, where you're like, oh no, you're a brain slug now. Like, your character is a brain slug, and you're gonna fight your friends and maybe kill them. Or like the Aboleth, where like, you know, you're just a brain man. You're just a meat suit, and the Aboleth controls you. Like, I love I love monsters that are just fucking terrifying. Like the False Hydra. Like, I love monsters that are just like, that thing's scary, and I don't want to fight it even when I'm level 20. I don't want to. I'd rather not, thanks. Like, those are my favorite monsters in D&D.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But that was the end of that question, I think. That took us about an hour to discourse, which is what I figured would happen. My second question from my friend Nick is, who is your favorite character in D&D that you have made, and why?
That is an excellent question. Do you want to start off?
Yeah, I could start off. Eugene. Eugene is my favorite character I've ever made. Finn is a close second, but Eugene is still my favorite character. Just because, like, the amount of joy that I have brought people with Eugene, and the amount of weird looks I get when I do the Eugene voice.
I was gonna say Eugene is everyone's favorite character.
Yeah, because
I'm so glad he's also yours.
I open my mouth and this comes out, and they're like, "What is this?" You know, they're like, "What is this man?" You know, and the amount of times that I have made people just lose their shit with Eugene's hijinks.
The Eugene Whisper was so good.
Yeah. Eugene is my favorite character that I've ever made, mostly because he started out as just a complete asshole. Like, because the way he started was I was playing a very small home game with my wife and her brother and their, I don't even think they're cousins, but their cousin Skylar. And it was a very, very, very small game. Like, we were just doing stuff. And I needed a boy to run the livery, to run the stables. And just off the top of my head, I came up with the stupidest name I could think of, which was Eugene. And then I was like, well, how does this stupid boy sound? And so, then I started doing this, which is just, can I make my voice sound as stupid as I possibly can? And that was Eugene. And
Yeah.
I liked him so much that I made him a character. And I was like, what if I made him, obsessed with something? And then I was like, okay, he's obsessed with his uncle because his mom told him that his uncle was a great adventurer. And so he wanted to become an adventurer just like his uncle. And then his story slowly morphed from there, where I was like, okay, well, what if I made him Cedric's kid and this, and this happened, And then he just became the absolute lawful good mess that he is today. And yeah, but that's the boy.
For me, it's really hard to pick just one. And this is just sticking to D&D characters. Other characters I enjoy more than some of my D&D characters, but I'm just gonna name all three, and they're not in any particular order. I do not know which one's better than the others. I enjoy them all. Well, actually, I'll do Styx Fireseeker is first because he's so iconic for me. If I were to ask most people, hey, name one of my NPCs, they would name Styx Fireseeker. But Styx started off as a character. I just really loved his lore and the way he viewed the world. Throughout most of the Rise of Tiamat campaign, I was quoted multiple times as saying, "I'd burn the forest to kill the rabbit." Styx Fireseeker's mentality, he's a good guy, but he's willing to do anything he needs to. He's making spells that can change the world, and then he publishes those spells in free books. He goes around giving out spell scrolls to people for free. He will do anything in his power to make sure this knowledge is spread. However, he will kill people for this knowledge. He will to learn a new spell. Oh, I have to murder somebody? All right, well, guess somebody needs to get murdered.
Yeah. I love that Styx and Finn are the exact opposite person.
Yeah.
Just because Finn is I'll give you the spell if you pay me.
Yeah, no, Styx is my purpose is to find the first flame and to better the world. And I believe pyromancy can better the world. So when he creates his cauterize spell, he hunts down wizards to be like, hey, you can heal your friends now here. So I love Styx. He's fun, and then also just Styx as a retired adventurer running a tavern that's very magical in a high fantasy setting. A lot of fun. I love the tavern. People love the tavern. I'm so glad other people enjoy it because Riha was mentioning it in my Discord recently. How much she physically wants to be able to go to that tavern. But after that is Ural Malignus, a malignant, magnificent traveling menagerie, mesmerizing bizarre spectacles, master of feng shui, priester of clouds, player of pipes, liquor of ichor, taker of teeth, kaiju, devil wrestler, eyes of light, sister of mysterious liquids, creator of archangels, little cat, horde slayer, task hunter, lord of the yogurt, haver of many titles.
That takes you 25 seconds. I just want you to when you started, I was looking at the time, and that takes you almost 30 seconds to say that's beautiful.
And I rattle that fucker off too.
Yeah.
Yorl is such a great character. He's so fun. I had a blast playing through Descent into Avernus. Ran once again by Ken, Odyssey of Eternity. With an amazing group. And just like I had so much fun with that character, and then like continued to play it. For anybody that's viewing but hasn't played at one of my Boss Battle Showdowns before, I use him as NPC as like I don't like to have everybody meet up in a tavern, especially because like with Boss Battle Showdown, some people might be like from different worlds. So it's Yorl, who by the time that I stopped playing him was a level 20 devil, wizard lich. Like he's multiversal at this point. So it's usually Yorl going around and gathering people, being like, "Hey, I've got a job for you. I'll pay you to go kill this thing." He's just a fun character. Absolute lunacy. By the end of the campaign, the DM had taken away his chaotic neutral alignment, and he was just chaotic. Crazy shit I was doing with him. Zero sense of self-preservation. He should not have lived through that campaign. I do not know how I managed to get a wizard who was running up to things and hitting them with his staff instead of casting spells to live through a whole campaign, but I did. It was really funny. And then my last one I'll give is Tess. I fucking love Tess. I'm so sad we're almost done with that campaign.
Yeah.
I want to play Tess forever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and this is for all the people in the Monster Manual fandom that may be watching, the amount of see, because that's why I say Finn is a close second, because the amount of emotion and attachment that I have created for this character, like when I first made Finn, I was like, okay, jackass artificer, okay, that is his like personality, like jackass smart, and I didn't think, anybody was gonna like identify with Finn, but the amount of people that I've had tell me like, oh, and Tess and Finn, I love their dynamic. I love Finn's dynamic with the other people. Like,
Yeah.
And to hear that, like, we've affected so many people with that, I'm like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and I mean, like, whereas like Finn was just jackass smart, Tess was literally a joke. Tess was, I wanted to make a cultist who sawed off their own arm to a moon goddess, and their name was Tess Tov Faith. And they were supposed to be like a background support character, and then they were pushed up to the front and got so much roleplay time that they've become one of my favorites. I fucking love playing them. I'm gonna be sad to see them go. I don't know how I'm gonna wedge them into a reoccurring NPC, but I'll make it happen.
Yeah, it's okay because we get to give them an epilogue if Beep runs the wedding campaign. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. But I think that's that for that question. Mm-hmm. Now we can move on to the questions that have been given by our viewers. The first question that we have is from Pan and Peter's player. Hello,
Inari.
Solus. Inari, yes. How would you take other manuals and races from Pathfinder or etc. and make them for D&D?
All right, so the answer to this is a little difficult. Mm-hmm. So like Pathfinder is very chunky in its character creation. And like Pathfinder races are like loaded. They have like a whole bunch for them, but not all of them. Some of them are just kind of like garbage, and like they're like, okay, so you have dark vision, you have a +2 to strength, -1 to dex, have fun, and it's like, what? Why play this race? Mm-hmm. But so basically, what you're going to do is any race in Pathfinder, or almost every race in Pathfinder, has something that they take away. Usually, it'll be like you get +2 strength, -1 con, or -1 intelligence. There'll be a +2, +1 situation, and then some minus situation. You're gonna get rid of those minuses because D&D has gotten rid of those. Kobold used to have minuses. I think Dark Elf used to have minuses. No, I think it's Kobold. It's Kobold and something else had minuses. They got rid of those.
I don't remember. Also, so go off, King. I don't remember.
They also got rid of sunlight sensitivity for races as well, because it is making people not play them.
Which, okay, I think from a roleplay perspective, that's kind of cool, like sunlight sensitivity. But when it affects literally everything you do, I'm like, all right, Chief.
I'm all right with sunlight sensitivity if they were to make it a opt-in. Like you can like if you take sunlight sensitivity, you'll also gain another trait.
Yeah.
Which is actually something that Pathfinder did. is that there were like optional traits that you could take that when you took them, they would change other things on your sheet. Really cool. But basically, you're gonna get rid of any of those minuses. If it has sunlight sensitivity or something like came to it, get rid of that. And then you're going to pick like maybe 1 or 2 things that race has, and then like whittle it down, and just try and gauge like how much strength it is compared to another 5e race. Base it off of like Tiefling, Asmar, or Half Orc. Those are my usual go-tos. When I'm making a homebrew race, I'll like write up the stuff for it, and then I'll go look at it compared to the Tiefling, compared to the Asmar, and then compared to Half Orc. And if it seems to be lining up pretty all right, then we're good. If it seems like maybe your race would be more optimal than any of those 3, then maybe slim it down some, change some values, whatever you think you need to do. It's hard to say with like without like choosing a race and then working through it to like really show the example. But like it really comes down to, for balance, just having a good feel for it. Try a few times, show it to other people who have a good grasp for balance, and eventually you'll get a good feel for like what it means to make a balanced character, a balanced race, a balanced whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to that. I think that was pretty succinct there, Jask.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the second question. Well, before that, I guess that I will add this. I haven't tried porting stuff too much. My thing that I normally do is, like Jack said, I'll base it off of other classes that are approved, and I'll just be like, well, does this seem, better than that? And then refine it so it kind of has the same feeling as, not exactly the same feeling as a class from a book, but basically like the same, overall grasp of a character.
Yeah.
But the next question is from my wife, and they ask, D20 system versus D6 system versus other dice set alternatives. So...
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I haven't played a lot of different systems, but I will say I am fond of crunchier systems, but that's just me. D6 systems to me, when all you've played is D20 systems, they almost seem like a little hard to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're like, oh, okay, well, that's just this then. But I also like D6 systems because they're much more roleplay intensive, I feel like. And that's one of my that's one of my favorite parts of a D6 system. And one of my favorite parts of tabletop in general, like Monster of the Week. Which is a D6 system. I love Monster of the Week, but I don't like or Wild Seas. But I don't like Monster of the Week and Wild Seas for the same reason that I do D&D, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I feel like you might have a more crunchier answer since you've done more homebrew than me. But that's kind of how I feel about it. Like every system has their like own strengths and weaknesses, but certain systems can be better for certain sets of players.
Yes.
So
I can actually very much so expand on this because like I had like a brain blast one day.
Uh-huh.
A long while back, very long time ago. I was playing. Oh God, what was it called? Is it Exodus? I think it was Exodus. I was running essentially a Fallout TTRPG. It was a Fallout TTRPG that like had come out, but like it wasn't called Fallout, but it was Fallout.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Brotherhood of Steel. It was like the Brotherhood of Iron or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't ghouls. They were ghouls. But not spelled Ghoul, like Fallout does. They're spelled like Ghu with the Umar over it, LS.
Mm-hmm.
You even had glowing ones. You could be a glowing one ghoul. It was a very neat system. And it was a D20 system. And then they came out with the next system after that, improving upon a bunch of things, but turning it into only a D10 system.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually liked the D10 system more. I think I still stuck with the older one because it had more content to play with. Like it had all the cool classes and subclasses and like race stuff because the new one had just come out. So like I only had the basics.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked the play style of the new one more. And then like we mentioned, Wild Seas. I absolutely love Wild Seas. And that's a 2d6 system. You only need 2d6 to play.
Mm-hmm.
One of the advantages of that is that it makes it so much easier for new people to play.
Yeah, most definitely.
I know almost every person ever that plays D&D has a bunch of dice. So like the dice is able to be lent out, but in the weird instance that you don't, you can scrounge up 2d6 or like get a phone app for 2d6.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can even pass around 2d6 much easier than like, oh, I need a d20. Oh, okay, I've hit, so now I need a d10.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. I really like the lower dice systems for like Jim said, like there's different reasons why I like one or the other, and it's really going to come down to personal preference. Wild Seas and other 2d6 systems tend to, but not as a rule, be less crunchy and more roleplay intensive.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't necessarily like desire one over the other. I don't necessarily like one over the other. It's just like when you're thinking about, if you're thinking about getting into TTRPGs, if you're thinking about getting into tabletop in general, and you see all these systems and you're like, what the fuck do I do? Where the fuck do I play? Where the fuck do I start? It sort of depends on like what you're looking for in a system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want a system where you can hit for 70 damage? Do you want a system where you can, roll a 35 and talk to God? Like, do you want a system where you roll 2d6 and then you explode, you roll 2 more d6, and then like you spend 4 hours just in a room talking to a plant? Like, what do you identify what it is in your soul that you want out of a TTRPG system? And
something I will absolutely add, by the way, is recently I've taken up playing Cyberpunk Red under, once again, Ken at Odyssey of Eternity. And it's my favorite system now. I hands down love it. It's my favorite system to play. I wish I had the brain for running more modern kind of campaigns. I might still try anyways at some point.
I think you should.
Maybe I'll try running a one-shot of some kind for it just to see if I have it.
I was going to say, I think that's where you should start, because I will absolutely play that shit with you.
But Cyberpunk Red uses a D10 to resolve anything and then damages D6s. And I have found that I love that system, and it's doing this while remaining crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not sacrificing the crunch to only have one die to resolve everything, and then one die for damage. Mm-hmm. Now, you're rolling like a certain amount of d6s based on the damage. I think my character, Cordycepsis, is rolling 5d6 every time he hits somebody with his shotgun slugs, which is an insane amount of damage, by the way.
Yeah, I could imagine so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's literally just find what you think you want, and then read how the system works. And if that sounds cool to you, then play the system. Because 9 times out of 10, if you like how the system works, you're gonna enjoy playing the system.
Yeah. So basically, what it really boils down to: do you like a lot of crunch?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to want to look to almost any D20 system.
Mm-hmm.
D&D, GURPS. Oh god, if you want like as much crunch as you can fit into both your hands and your friend's hands.
That's not even crunch. That's a sheet metal.
Yeah.
That's you don't crunch. That's your teeth bounce off. Like
that is eating a whole bowl of Wheaties dry.
That is the most succinct explanation of that system ever. It's like sand. You want to eat a bowl of sand? You want to eat a bowl of grit?
This makes it sound awful. GURPS is a lot of fun. I like GURPS. However, you do like I forever ago I saw a meme, and I wish I could remember the full taglines for each one. GURPS is the only one that stands out in my head, but it was some assembly required.
GURPS is the rock tumbler of RPGs.
GURPS requires a lot of effort to like get a game going. Anyways, so if you're looking for crunch, you're gonna want to look in the D20 system, and then also tack on certain other systems, such as Cyberpunk Red has a lot of crunch while only using 2 different dice. If you're wanting more role play than crunch, now again, this will also always depend on your DM because like playing at a table with me, you're going to have more role play than fighting. I mean, during the Zizix campaign, we went like 3 months at one point without ever having a fight.
Yeah.
And we were running every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will lean towards more roleplay than fight, but that's more on a DM to DM basis. And if you're looking like, if you don't know who's going to be DMing, you're going to want to look at just what the system encourages. If you're looking for more roleplay, you're going to want to look at games that are powered by the apocalypse. Games like Wild Seas, Monster of the Week, stuff like that. That will give you less crunch and more roleplay. Another great example of less crunch, more roleplay is a lot, but not all, of the White Wolf games.
Yeah, and Kids on Brooms.
Kids on Brooms or Kids on Bikes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the answer to that. Also, right under that question, just says Pathfinder Y. Crunch.
No, crunch. Macadamia nuts. Pistachios. That's why.
Pathfinder is a handful of very nice nuts that you just chew on and so much crunch.
Yeah, you're
However, much like a handful of miscellaneous nuts, you might have some bad ones in there. Because Pathfinder, because of the amount of crunch there is for character building, you can take the wrong feat at the wrong level, and now your character feels useless. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to accidentally tailspin your character. But we can move on to the next question.
Well, I mean, I don't really have an answer for this one. I think the answer for this question is just Wizards is scared. But why have there been no official half-dragon options for player characters since 3.5?
I do actually have an answer for this.
Well, my answer is Wizards don't want to give us it. That's why.
So that kind of is the answer, but like to like expand out on that, in the book for Rise of Tiamat is the first one. The Rise of Tiamat 2-book system or thing adventure. They have a half dragon in it. They have, I think, a few half dragons, and they are distinctly powerful. They wanted to give half dragons back their power because they are 50% a mythological beast of great power, and a human or tiefling or what have you as the other half, right? They wanted half dragons to have that mystery and power to them, and making them a playable race would rob them of that. It's the same reason why you can't play an Illithid.
Have I ever told you about my homebrew Illithids? You just made me think of this. Yeah, okay, so they're called the Hillbillithids.
Oh wait, you have told me about this. Yes, I love them.
They live in a swamp, and their elder brain is super ancient, and her name is Meemaw.
I love that so much.
Yes.
Also, to answer your wife's other question, could also extend this to other race options like monsters for player characters. It's absolutely a thing that you can do. I'm going to sing Pathfinder 3.5 praises so often. They had a thing for that. There was some side rules for like turning monster races into player races. Pathfinder, I don't know if 3.5 had it, but Pathfinder also had a custom race builder where like it had a bunch of options and like you got to like spend points to make your race. It was cool. It was really neat. I wish 5e would do something like that to make it easier for people to like make their own custom races. You can still kind of do that. Just work with your DM. Just basically the end all to a lot of the questions of like, how would you do this? Talk to your DM.
Behold my new custom race, anime character.
You joke, but there's literally like 50 of those on.
I don't want that. I don't want to see that. Yes, here's my. I activate my 3rd level feature, the animal I have become. It sends me into AMV mode. All right, next question.
The next question would be from Tate.
What are your
favorite weak classes, spells, subclasses, etc. in 5e or any system?
Well, I can't remember from other systems. But I mean, I like Monk. I don't know how else to answer this question. What are my favorite weak classes, spell subclasses? None of them.
I honestly, I was surprised you gave any answer.
If it's not,
I'm surprised you even said monk.
If it don't do big bonk, I don't play it. I mean, I'm sorry. I know that makes me sound like a mega sweaty shitlord, but it gives me no dopamine at all to just be like, I can do one thing and it's okay. I'm just like, I'd rather just play a champion fighter. Like, at least then I could hit things. So, you know.
So I'm going to respond to this and also respond to a question I know is later down in this question list by your wife.
Yeah.
Addressing min-maxers.
Yes.
It is fine to min-max. It is fine to have the mentality that Jim has as long as you bring other things to the table.
Yeah.
If you show up and you offer fucking nothing to the table aside from doing the big bonk, I would rather have someone else at that seat who will give me something to work with.
Motherfucking saltine ass characters.
Yeah, like if you're just showing up to like set out your dice and you're like quiet unless somebody addresses you or somebody like initiates RP with you, and then the combat starts and then you like very robotly describe casting smite onto your weapon, using hide, and then sneaking up on the guy and then hitting them with your attack, and then smiting because you're playing a paladin rogue, and just hitting them for all of their health bar, and then going back to being quiet. That's not fun. Allow other people to, one, do the things as well, and two, roleplay with you.
Preach.
Add roleplay to the space. I had a character that I didn't even mean to make super broken who was a quiet character. He
Preach.
still was able to be roleplayed with.
Preach. Stand at the pulpit. Stand at the pulpit!
Like, Grok Chunker was a quiet character, but like I wasn't quiet.
Beef bus.
I roleplayed plenty of them still.
Beef bus.
Man did so much damage.
Me and Joe run up. I'm like, 2d8, that's pretty good. Jask walks up. Okay, 11d8. Okay, 2d6. Okay, I eat him. What's up? I eat
so
him.
Insane. I just to give a really quick rundown of what happened. I made a character who started off barbarian, and then because of like roleplay reasons, it made sense for him to swap into cleric, and so like he was zealot barbarian for a few levels, and then war domain cleric, and turns out that's a powerful fucking mix.
Yeah. What's up? I eat him.
But yeah, my answer to my favorite weak subclass or my favorite weak class, spell, subclass, etc. I already kind of mentioned this earlier, but Spores Druid. I love Spores Druid. It's my favorite 5e subclass, and it's considered one of the weakest. It's just a lot of fun to me. I love the flavor and the mechanics. They make my brain go good. The only complaint I have is that their major like damage source is poison, and fucking everything in its mother is either resistant or immune to poison.
That's when you take Elemental Adept and you go poison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like, I'll give an actual answer. I like Monk. I like the Monk class because of the flavor, and it's not good in 5e. Like, the fact that you have to take a feat or you have to take a 1-level fighter dip to make the class as good as fighter makes me sad.
To do a very quick explanation on that, once again, just for the viewers that don't know, monks do like so little punch damage when a fighter at level 1 has the option to take unarmed fighting style and then do a d8, was it?
Yeah, which is double their damage at level 1.
Yeah. Which monks do d4s, and I think it's level 11 when the monk catches up to the fighter. Then.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Insane. Absolutely insane. It shouldn't be working that way.
Exactly.
And every once in a while, Wizards of the Coast will put out like an errata to fix a bunch of things, and they will make the weakest monk subclass, the elemental subclass, even weaker. I lost my mind when there was an errata making the Water Whip, which is the weakest ability in the weakest subclass, in the weakest class, weaker.
Yeah, and like, I figured we'd talk about the big D&D 1, like, Unearthed Arcana. They did change Monk in the Unearthed Arcana. They started at D6 now. They started at D6 now, but that's still not as good as Unarmed Fighter.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Unarmed fighter's still better. Like, it's dumb. Like, I love the idea of being a monk from a monastery, and you like end up on this adventuring party, and you have one of my favorite characters that I have made, you know, just as like character wise, just in character flavor, my monk Zeal, who's a dragon monk. I love the flavor of dragon monk. I love it. It's a bad class. It's a bad subclass. It's not good. But the flavor is good. Like, that's probably my favorite class. The same reason you like Spores Druid is the reason I like Dragon Monk. I love the fact that I can punch Dragon Breath. Like, that's so good, but it sucks. But it's bad.
It's so unfortunate that the Dragon Monk, all of their stuff is also stuff the Crystal Dragons, Dragonborn get.
Yeah.
At level 1.
Yeah.
And they get better versions.
So I could just be an open hand monk, which is like I could be an open hand Amethyst Dragonborn, which is literally like the best monk class. Open hand is the best monk class. Fight me about it. And then you can be an open hand monk with the Amethyst Dragonborn and be so good. Be good, be like legitimately good, and then you take fighting initiate as your first feat, and you're just good. You're just a good damage dealing character, and you're good. That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah.
But God forbid I want to be a dragon monk that has cool dragon breath abilities and can fly. No, just go ahead and be a dragon. It's fine. Why would you ever want to be anything? Why would you ever want to make your heart happy, Jeremy Crawford? I have words. I have, you listen to me, Chrissy Perkins. A level 1 broom with flyby that does 2 attacks. I am level 1 in Curse of Strahd. Why? Jeremy Crawford, I have questions. Next question. What's the next fucking question?
Well, hold on. Before we go to the next question.
Okay. Yeah,
I
what's
want
up?
to answer this on any system.
Yeah.
Out of any system, my favorite class that's considered super weak is Pathfinder has a class called the Occultist. And I never use 90% of their abilities. 90% of their abilities is being able to like pick up an item, and then you really focus on it and you read the psychic energy left on it from other people interacting with it or being in its space, and you can like tell who's been in that area or like who last held this item for a long period of time, stuff like that. It's neat, but like unless you're doing like an investigation campaign, it's not useful. But the Occultist is a caster class who relies on items to cast, but not like they rely on like a wand of magic missiles to cast magic missiles. They rely on items with ideas behind them. Mm-hmm. So like, if you're trying to cast conjuration spells, you need to pick an item that is based on like that like not as based on, but like has the idea of conjuration spells. So like a brazier.
Yeah.
You use that and like you burn incense in this thing, and then you're able to cast conjuration spells. Or if you're trying to cast an evocation spell, using a wand or a glove to do that. If you're trying to cast divination spells, you need to use an orb or a tarot deck or like glasses, things that would bring in like that evoke that imagery is how you cast the spells.
Yeah.
And you store your spells in it like as if a wizard would store spell books, and you can only have so many items that are like storing spells. And then also based on which ones you're like mainly using, you get extra abilities. So like if you're like mainly using an evocation item, you get to also like store on top of the spells a certain amount of uses of like just shooting a beam out of your thing. Mm-hmm. It's a neat fucking class. I love it so much. It's so weak. Yeah. It is so weak, but I love it.
No, so when you described like focusing on the item and like communing with its psychic energy, I just imagine someone picking up a shoe and taking a big old whiff and being like, they were here. They were here. Just
I
like
can smell you.
Just like these were his shorts. He was here. Well, no, he was here. These are his shorts. No, he was here.
You don't understand.
I was there, man.
But yeah, sorry, that was the last thing I wanted to add to that question before we moved on from it.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. That was good. I didn't know about that. I like that. So, did you ever have situations in? I'm just gonna say because he said specifically in boss battles or one shots. that broke the deal for us, or like I'm just gonna say in campaigns, and I think just to go in on this first, I think you're gonna have campaigns that that you have like one person, or you have some people that do something that you're not 100% there for, you know, and especially in our profession where we deal with just randos from the internet that sign up, you're gonna get a couple of sour apples, you know, that just happens. And thankfully, at tables that I have been in, and tables that I, you know, have been in with you specifically, Jask and Ken, there's only been a couple of times where I've been like, yeah, that was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know the one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have one specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yeah. If you're gonna come into a table that I really care about and play Moon Knight,
make it interesting.
let's make it interesting. Yeah, let's make it interesting and not be a jackass.
Yeah.
Just, you know, and that comes with like, I feel like a lot of these people that make these situations don't really understand what tabletop is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And like they come in and they think, oh, I'm gonna tell this really cool story. Like I'm gonna be so cool, you know. And I think you can play any character. Like literally, you can come to a table with any character you want, as long as that character is self-aware, and you are aware that you have self-awareness. Any character can work.
We have an amazing friend that I will quote always, that any character can be good with self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Brendan. Amazing fucking quote. I apply it to everybody. It is such a good like a character who is very ooh-woo cat girl could be really good character.
Why you just gotta call out Beep like that? Why you gotta just throw Beep underneath the bus? She already can't walk.
Kobold?
Yeah.
Her kobold baby, who talks in uwu voice, is a character made in self-awareness, and is fucking phenomenal. It's one of my favorite Beep characters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we're kind of getting off topic of the question here, so let me get us back onto that.
Mm-hmm.
So have I had any situations in my boss battle showdowns, one-shots, and we're going to go to like games in general that have like quote-unquote broke the deal for me? If so, how do I resolve it without drastic solutions? So I'm going to answer this a few ways. So first off, I will answer as a player instead of a DM. There was actually a campaign that I was in. I was already kind of iffy on being in it. I wasn't sure I wanted to add in that much more time at that point in my life into more games and stuff that like were obligations. But I joined it anyways. And then one of the people really rubbed me the wrong way. But this was a paid-for campaign, and they were the one who commissioned it. So instead of like making it into a big deal and like, because everybody else seemed to be doing fine with it, I just sent a message to the DM and went, hey, I think I'm going to back out. Here's my reasoning. I'm not looking for a solution. You don't need to worry about it. It's like no stress. This just isn't the table for me. Like, as a player, it's a lot easier because like you leaving doesn't mean the whole table has to become borked. It can mean like some storylines getting a little messy, but like it doesn't ruin the whole table. It doesn't mean that they have to scramble to find a new DM or something. So like, what I'll always say is if it's a solution that you think would be easy, talk to the person. If you don't think the solution would be that easy, if you don't think that they would respond well to it, if you don't think that like it's one that can be fixed just by having a talk with that person, talk to the DM and ask if they'd be willing to have a sit down with the person with you. Talk to the group, have a sit down with the group. A lot of problems can just be solved by just having a conversation. And then failing that, don't stick with a table that you're not having fun at. Mm-hmm. There was another person that I recently have befriended, and I love playing games with them. They're very great. Their name is Nick. They were telling me about how they're in two tables where they're just not having fun. The past like 3 sessions of the Pathfinder game that he was playing in, he literally had player agency taken away from him, he wanted to like do a thing, and the DM was like, "And we're moving this way now, and you follow them." And like that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wasn't having fun. And I told him, talk to the DM, and if all else fails, you just back out. You're for him in particular, he's paying to be at those tables. And if he's not having fun, if it's not solvable, then move on.
Mm-hmm.
Now for the games that have like through the perspective of me being the DM here, actually we will touch on one other thing. The Fox guy. That one. let me just say, sometimes drastic solutions are the correct answer.
Donuts.
Sometimes drastic solutions are the correct answer.
Donuts from Japantown.
I
wasn't even I wasn't even part of that campaign, and I hurt.
I won't get into the full of it.
Yeah.
But there was a guy who just said some racist shit on a live streamed game. And I almost lost it. Like the moment he had gotten through the first half of his sentence and there was a pause and I knew that the second half was going to have nothing fucking good in it, I had muted my mic and stepped away from my computer, like took a few steps back. And in the moment the second half came out of his mouth, I took my headphones off my head and walked to the other side of the room because I didn't want to rip into this man live on stream. And Ken seemed to like, everybody went quiet for a moment. And I heard things continue. So my guess is that Ken continued and just like rolled over it, just gonna steamroll over that, pretend it didn't happen, and we're gonna address it at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like Jess said, sometimes drastic situations are the only answer. And
yeah.
I hate that sometimes that like tabletop has to result in that, but every so often you'll get tables that just don't go. Because of one. I mean, we're all into D&D that probably listen to this. We've all read like DM horror stories. We've all read like D&D horror stories. Sometimes shit just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no fault of everyone at the table. It's usually fault of one person who comes to the table with the wrong idea.
And like I already said, 90% of problems can be solved just by talking them out.
Exactly.
A lot of the times, other people won't speak up because they think since nobody else is speaking up, that nobody else is bothered by it.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's having that same mentality. If something is bothering you, reach out. Maybe reach out to the person based on what it is, how you think the person might handle it. Maybe reach out to the other players, make sure that you're not like crazy or like overreacting. I do that all the time. If I'm in a game with Jim or our friend Beep, if I think I'm overreacting to a situation, I'll usually shoot one of them or both of them a message being like, "Hey, how do you feel about this? Am I kind of like, am I just ornery today? Am I just mad?" And then like I'll get outside perspective, and then we'll move from there.
Mm-hmm.
Another great example of this as a DM was a while back. We had a guy who sent me a character sheet on D&D Beyond. Now, for those that don't know, I barely use D&D Beyond. I don't like using it. It doesn't read well for my brain. And he was like, "Hey, is this good? It's got a few homebrew things in it." And I skimmed it, and it looked fine from the skimming. And then he gets in, and he's like, "Hey, can I already have a few of my spells prepped?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So this man had a revolver that he could put spells into the bullets, and then those spells become like permanent until used.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a revolver full of fireballs.
Mm-hmm.
That was 6 shots of fireball. As a 5th level person, and then also his spell slots of fireball on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he could fan the hammer for this pistol and just get like 3 shots of fireball out in one turn. If something did anything within 15 feet of him, he could, as a reaction, fire his pistol and fire a fireball at them. That was largely on me because I only skimmed it because D&D Beyond reads to me like hell through a blender. And so I didn't look through everything that he had. It was not entirely his fault, but also maybe he should have like not brought a character like that to a table.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of like shutting down the whole game, I just like, hey, what's letting you do that thing? Oh, okay, it's right there on your character sheet. After you pointed it out to me, I see it. My bad. I said yes already. You get to keep this for now. And then after the game was done, I pulled him aside and went, hey, so that was a trial run for allowing that kind of thing to happen. Unfortunately, super broken to be able to cast Fireball 3 times in a turn. Consistently. So we're gonna say like from now on that almost all of that's not allowed. If you want to like go on an individual base and send them to me, like which feats, classes or class features, spells and stuff that you were using, I can approve and disapprove them on an individual basis. But don't just send me a whole character sheet with like a whole bunch of homebrew in it. It doesn't read well for me. And they shortly thereafter left my Discord.
Which, I mean, fair enough. Godspeed, Fireball man. You know, it is what it is. Honestly, I mean, that's one of those things where I'm just like, I mean, homie had to know it was broken. Like,
yeah, absolutely, he had to.
Like, homie had to know, like, cause like if you like D&D and you see a thing that's like, I am Punchy McPunchman, and that is my class, and I can punch 17 times in a turn, and I have taken that's my class. My class is Punchman, and my abilities as a punchman give me the ability to make 17. It's like a big flurry of blows. Okay, I spend punch points, and for every punch point I spend, I can get more punches. And then I'm going to punch so many times. That's 112 damage, and that is I didn't crit once. And they're just like, yeah, no, this is fine. And then
like, in certain situations, it's fine to be bringing crazy builds. My boss battle showdowns is specifically for crazy builds. But like
crazy
really
builds within reason, you know?
Yeah, like the crazy builds I'm talking about are like what Joe brings, where like it's all official content. None of it's like homebrew or even third party of what Joe makes. It's all him just going, I'm gonna make a champion fighter who has gotten a few magic items now and crits on like a 16 plus because he's a level 20 champion fighter with a magic item that also gives him some crit range. And do 2 billion damage.
I mean, that's but that's not like, you know, that doesn't make it not fun for the other people. Like, other people still get to have their stuff, but if it's like, oh, I roll up, I cast smite on my fireball gun and shoot 17 smited fireballs into this dragon's scrotum, and then it dies, you know, like, I don't you know, I just I mean, you gotta know, right? That's what gets me about builds like that. Like, you have to know. You have to go, I am anime sword man. Like, you have to go. You like what gets me is when people come with these broken builds and you're like, I didn't think it was all that broken. And it's like, how?
You know, you can accidentally stumble into a broken build. Again, with Graf, like, started barbarian, went cleric, and it turns out really good pairing for some reason. However, showing up with like a person who's able to fan the hammer and shoot your entire load of fireballs, being 6+ fireballs as a level 5 character where you should only have like 1 fireball, you gotta know that's not balanced. So to put a nice simple like TLDR on this question, how do you resolve it without drastic solutions? Just talk to everyone. Talk to the people that are involved in it. Talk to the DM. Talk to the players. Maybe if you need to, have a sit down with the whole group and be like, "Hey, this needs fixed. Can we curtail this?"
I like that a lot of our like solutions are just talk. Just say words at people.
I, as somebody who is like in the polyamorous community, right? I have learned 90% of every problem ever can be solved by just fucking talking about it. So many people just go, well, I don't want to bother them, or nobody else is talking about it, so clearly they're not being bothered by it. No. If there's something bothering you, if there's something that is a problem, if there is something that is awry, talk to the people involved and come up with a solution. Sure, you will have the people that are stamp their feet, throw their arms around, and tantrum. You don't want those people in your life. You don't want those people at your tables.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to resolve something, anything, ever, talk to the people involved, see what you can find for a solution. If solutions can't be found, see if workarounds can be found. If workarounds can't be found, think about drastic solutions there.
Yeah, I like that. The next question from Lats is, when a player wants to do something that's clearly not within their skill set or otherwise impossible, the art of a successful no, but you can do X instead.
Okay, so I know I've been told I'm really good at doing this. This is not a conscious effort. I wish I could tell you, here's my secret. Here's what I do. This is a reflex that my brain has grasped onto. And that has only gotten better over the years as I've watched other DMs who are really good at it do it. A perfect person to watch is Brendan Lee Mulligan. He is amazing at going, oh, you want to try that? Really? You sure? You could do this instead. But if the player still wants to do the thing, if they don't take that hook of like, here's another thing you could do instead, he will run with it because he doesn't like to tell his players no. However, he will absolutely in world call them on it.
Yeah.
If you ever want a great example of that, just go to YouTube, type in Dimension 20 Hilda.
Yes. Yeah.
Where one of the players trying to secret a love note to a full-grown man while they're playing like a teenager.
Yeah. I want to crawl into this corn monster's ass.
Used disguise self on themselves to look like an old lady and came into a police station to hand them a note saying that it's for the chieftain of police and that it was left on the front porch of the police station. And their name, when the cops were like, well, who are you? She was like, well, my name is Hilda. And they're like, okay, last name, Hilda. Where do you live? Hilda Street. And you could see Brendan just tilt his head and go, and in character go, so your name is Hilda from Hilda Street. And like really like roll with it in world. An amazing thing. I've also watched every content ever put out by Brendan Lee Mulligan, and one of the things that he has said is he doesn't like to tell his players no. Mm-hmm. He will very rarely tell his players just a flat, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
And I've taken that to heart. Recently, we were doing a boss battle showdown where there's this giant tar monster, and they had learned that from the other tar monsters that there's these power cores in them. And the tar monster has had his power core exposed, but it's still like nearly full health, right? And one of the other players wanted to just try to rip the power core out. Now, this would basically mean ending the boss fight right then and there. If the tar monster needs the power core to stay alive, you rip it out, it's reduced to 0 hit points no matter how many hit points it has. Since it is at almost full, which was nearly 1,000 hit points, a successful strength check would have just essentially dealt almost 1,000 damage.
Uh-huh.
So when the person was like, I'm going to do this, I was like, okay, so like you can attempt, but I'm really going to, like, it's going to be near impossible. It's really hard to do. And they're like, well, I really want to do it. And I was like, okay, I will let you attempt. You could try attacking it instead and do damage to it. Or you can keep trying, but I'm letting you know that ripping this out is going to require a Herculean, otherworldly effort. So never give them the DC. Never tell them the exact DC. Always just say, it's going to require, a crazy amount of effort, a Herculean effort, otherworldly effort, or combine them if you want to. And then if they still want to do it, let them roll and find out that the DC was a fucking 45. To that point, I did see old prospectors say you can have them roll for it but make it a stupid high DC check to make it essentially an auto fail. I don't want to make anything essentially an auto fail. And the only reason why I had it at a 45 was because Joe was also at that table with his level 20 fighter who could probably roll a 45. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to make it high because if this guy failed, and then Joe tried, and it was like, a 20 or a 25.
Yeah.
Joe just would auto succeed and the fight would be over.
Yeah, make it attainable, but with Herculean effort. That's exactly what I
Yes.
do. Like in one of my Aeon Terra campaigns, one of my friend's characters, kind of the same thing that you did with the tar monster. There was a power core keeping this like trap room alive, and the power core was like super heated, And I made the point of like, this thing is white hot, like this thing would fuck you up if you touched it, and it's like bolted into this shit and everything like that. And my character's my friend's barbarian was still like, I want to try and rip it out, and I was like, well, with how hot it is, he's probably going to lose that hand. Like I'll let you do it, but it's going to be a really high DC, and you're probably going to lose something, and this, and this. And they were like, okay, I still want to do it. And I was like, all right, well, if you know the consequences, if you are fine with the consequences, roll that dice. And they rolled a natural 20 and got like a 31 and ended up ripping it out and killing the monster. But, well, like stopping the machine. But, yeah, their character lost their hand and had horrible scarring all up their arm, and basically couldn't use their two-handed club anymore, and a bunch of different stuff because they didn't have a hand, And I hate to boil it down to like talk to your players, make sure they know the ramifications of their actions, But that's also like, when something is really hard and they want to do it, what I always do is I say, okay, well, I'm going to let you roll, but just to let you know, it's going to be a really high DC, and shit's going to happen to you if you do this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
I also want to add, don't let your players roll if it is impossible. Like when it came down to the tar monster, the reason why it was a 45 wasn't to make it an impossible thing and then just let them roll to placate them. It was to make it achievable, maybe not by that player.
Mm-hmm.
But it was achievable. Again, there was another player who had a crazy high strength build going who could have succeeded on that 45 if they had tried and rolled well enough. So I had to make it that 45, or else they would auto succeed just by the virtue of how much that strength, and like they had some bonuses. People had cast spells for like aiding dice rolling.
Mm-hmm.
It could have happened.
Yeah.
So like, if it comes down to like they're trying a task that is impossible, that is the only time I will go, no, sorry. And that's when I will do what Lats said, is like give them a no, but, because I don't like to go no and then just stare them down and wait for them to come up with another solution. I like to give them a no, but here's another thing you can try. Like if I had wanted to make that thing unable to be ripped out from it at any point, then I would have said no, but you see that it looks like the material on it isn't the best. You think that you might be able to damage it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I that's another thing too. Like you said, like, I'm not gonna let you walk up and be like, Jim, I want to flip this building. Like, I'm a barbarian. I'm strong as hell. I just want to flip the council building. Like, no, you can't do that. Like I would say, well, you can't like break the council, but you can't like flip the building. But if you want to cause some building or some damage to the structure because you're pissed, the windows don't look very strong. Like, you could probably smash up the windows or smash up the siding if you wanted to. Like, still let them do what they want to do. But if somebody walked up to me and they were like, Jim, I want to flip the building because I'm pissed off at the mayor, it's like, that's not realistically achievable by one man. Yeah,
exactly. Like, don't let the players get away with impossible tasks, but hard to do tasks. Just make the DC hard.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure that you're not making the DC hard to that one player, because then if if you're trying to like make it so that the druid, who's trying to do a strength check, who has like maybe a 12 strength, if the druid's trying to do something, but then like the fighter has like a 25 strength because he's wearing one of the giant strength belts.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know that once that druid fails, the fighter's going to step up and be like, hold on, I've got this.
Yeah.
So you've got to make it like to the party a hard check. If that's what you're going for.
Exactly. I think that's pretty succinct answer to that one.
Yeah.
The next answer, or the next question that will have an answer, is what are the best out of the box solutions your players came up with? What was the problem and what was the solution?
A party of level 1 players killed a level 20, or sorry, a CR 20 something, like 25 something ancient black dragon by crawling up its ass.
Huzzah. I don't think I have one. Like, not one that I can think of, like, right off the bat. I mean, we killed this is way forever ago. It wasn't my players. I was playing in this session, but we killed an ancient green dragon with a ball of string and a tree because the druid true polymorphed it into a cat. We tempted the cat with a ball of yarn, and then our barbarian crushed it with a tree. So that was pretty cool that happened. But I don't have one where. Well, I guess this is one, but it wasn't like he meant to do it on purpose. So my brother-in-law Andrew was playing his character Korzorai, who was a dark elf gunslinger. And Korzorai had made a bunch of grenades. And they were going up against these zombies, these like zombie spellcasters who could cast Wall of Fire. Well, Korzorai got hit by the Wall of Fire, and all his grenades exploded. Because he was wearing like a bandolier of grenades across his chest, right?
Yeah.
He had like 7 grenades. So I rolled the damage for 7 grenades. And they ended up doing a giant chunk of the main spellcaster's health pool because there was a giant explosion that went off. And that explosion was the only reason that they won, because they couldn't hit the spellcaster, but the explosion was an AoE. So it wasn't really like... He didn't do it on purpose, because he gets hit with Wall of Fire and he's like, all right, I'm down. And then I go, weren't you wearing a belt of grenades? And he goes, oh yeah, I was. And I go, okay, well, how many were there on there? And he goes, 7. And then I rolled, it was like 3d6 for each grenade. So I rolled, 21d6, and then he died. And then the spellcaster took a bunch of damage, but it wasn't like, I guess it still fits the spirit of the question, but it wasn't like specifically he did that on purpose,
Yeah, I have something to add.
Yeah.
To like it was kind of akin to that, and then also I'll explain the dragon thing. My brother played a alchemist from Pathfinder, and I gave him a bag of like alchemist supplies at one point, where like essentially alchemist gets like so many uses of their stuff, and then this bag basically just made it so he could do more, because it was like a bag of holding, except for it replenished its supplies, and it could hold alchemist supplies, and he could put more supplies in to replenish his ability of using those uses. And he was the grenadier alchemist, so he was making bombs essentially. So he would stuff his hand in, grab the material he needed, and then as he's pulling his hand out, the materials would then form and like shape and shift based on like what he was imagining. And then by the time he's pulled it out, he's now pulled out a like handmade grenade that would have been made at the same quality he would have made it, just made by the bag. Well, the bag could also hold other things in it. He just never put anything else in it. Well, at one point, the rogue had stolen a bunch of explosive beads. These things are a recurrent magic item in my campaigns. They're basically just little red beads that you throw, and they're like poppets, right? Like they hit the ground and they explode, except for instead of just making a little pop noise, they actually explode. Mm-hmm. And they had just gotten a jar full of these things. And they snuck it into the alchemist's bag, full of volatile bomb-making material. The alchemist, in a fight, describes himself as, I open up my bag and I cram my hand in hard, grab, and rip out a bomb. And I'm like, okay, hold on. You just had a whole jar of like almost 100 some odd beads put in there that explode upon hard contact. Roll me D100. And he rolled a 1. He blew up. All of his supplies blew up. All the beads blew up. And insta-killed everything in the room.
Wonderful.
Then the dragon was I made an open world campaign where the players were going to be able to do anything. There was no overarching plot, but I wanted to give them like a goal, right? Give them that little bit of a hook, something to work towards. So they were asked to go clear out this goblin and kobold cave because like for some reason goblins and kobolds were working together and they were organizing and they were bringing a bunch of treasures and stuff that they're stealing to this cave. So they were told to clear it out, figure out what's going on. Turns out that a black dragon had made their home in this cave and been hibernated and outgrew the entrance to the cave. So it's in this massive chamber, but it can't leave anymore. So this like horde of goblins that had found it started worshiping it and would bring it stuff, so it survived. And started up a treasure hoard, and then like kobolds also like chipped into the cave and then found the dragon, and the dragon convinced the kobolds and goblins to work together to bring it stuff, and it became very rich over the years. And then like they ran out of stuff in the nearby underground areas to pull, so he started sending them out into the countryside to steal from people, and that's when the players came in. And the idea was that they would get to this chamber, see this massive ancient black dragon and its inability to leave. And they would go, we'll come back for that. Instead, most of the party try to talk to it to keep distracted, while the fighter, who was a warforged, who was using a whip blade, which it was essentially a sword. It was just a sword with like reflavored so that like it attaches to his arm at the wrist, and it like extended out a little bit and segmented to like be like a whip made of blades. And he was at less danger of it. Like normally I would be like, that's going to slice you up, right? But he's a warforged. He's made of metal. Anyways, he wrapped it around himself and then crawled up the dragon's ass and then just started wiggling. The dragon, upon that happening, let out its breath weapon, killed most of the party, but died because you bleed out really fast from a wound like that. And they, as level 1 adventurers, only 2 of them left, but, you know, as level 1 adventurers, killed an ancient black dragon and got its treasure hoard and flipped the economy.
I don't even know what I would do, Jesk. I don't even know. I'd be like, well, you both can take, I don't know, 7 levels?
Yeah, it boosted them to level 10.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, wow. Just, yeah. I don't even know what I would do. I would just be like, well, okay. Well, it can't reach you, so just do your damage.
Jim and viewers who have played with me, if you ever wonder why I'm so good at ad-libbing and like figuring out what's going on and just rolling with the punches, my players want to do something crazy and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like on top of it. I hardly ever stumble. That fucking player group that did that to me. I love them for it.
Yeah.
But they are the reason why I'm so good at it, because I had so much practice with them.
You're in its ass. You are in its colon. You have killed it.
I once gave them these items. I love giving these items out. They're really cool. They're living gemstones, but they're only living in the environment they're supposed to be in. So like they're like, there's like a topaz fish, right? And as long as it's on dry land, it's just like a perfectly carved fish made of topaz. And you put it in water and it starts swimming around. It animates, and it's not jerky animation. It looks and moves like a fish. It eats things. It's a fish made of topaz. Well, I gave them one at one point. It was very high level at this point. Like they've now like they're running their own kingdom. Mm-hmm. I gave them one that was a ruby scorpion that had a death toxin in it. If you fail the saving throw, you die. But the only way to get the death toxin out was for it to be alive, and it had to be on sand to be alive. If you even grabbed it and lifted it, it was no longer alive. It was just a gemstone. So they took a bag of sand, put it into the bag of sand, tied it to a stick, a sturdy iron reinforced stick and used it like a spear.
Okay. Guy gets stung. He's dead. He's died.
Yeah.
He's dead as hell. Boy
Now,
is
the
dead.
DC for the death toxin was like a 14. It wasn't crazy high,
Yeah.
but that's still like most commoners are going to fail it.
Yeah.
Most nobles are going to fail. Like they are the perfect assassin. They walk up, they poke you, you die.
Yes. Just fucking like I am the mighty wizard. Fuck with this bag, homie.
Wizard, you say? So you're not particularly good about poisons, are you? Stab, 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 stab.
Yeah. Meet my protege, little Tony. Fucking give him the sting, little Tony. Aya! Dead. No, that's.
Yeah, I even wanted to make it hard for them to be able to utilize this thing. So, like, all of these creatures, because they are just, like, gemstone given life, they're immune to mind controlling. They're also not intelligent enough to, like, reason with. They are just animals that will do animal things, except for that spells that would make animal things, or make animals do things for you, don't work on them. There's truly no way to make them work for you, unless you just tie them to a stick and start stabbing people if they're dangerous bits.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we can move on to the next question.
That group would have been something else. Every time you talk about it.
Their motto was, how can we weaponize anything and everything? And they really meant it.
Wow. Next question. How can you balance Spotlight as a player in order to make sure your friends are getting attention paid to their stories also while telling yours? I think just be self-aware of how much screen time you're taking up.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, like make sure if you like what Jim just did, right, where I said and then he like took a step back from what he was going to say, right? You could tell I was trying to say something, so he gave me the space. Do that.
Yes.
Pay attention to what cues your other players are giving. It's much harder to do in a Discord call.
Mm-hmm.
If you're finding that your group is having a hard time making sure other people have Spotlight, ask everyone to put on cameras. It actually helps a lot to be able to see the physical, like, they are clearly waiting to say something. Or in our Monday game, we typically have cameras on for at least most of the players. And when somebody wants to say something, but they're not having the room to, they'll just raise their hand.
Yeah. It helps. It really does.
Yeah.
But, and this is just going to go back to the other things we've said, but, like, just talk to the other players. You know, make sure you're not hogging the spotlight. Because, like again, like we said before, you know, just be self-aware. Really, that's just the answer to that question.
Yeah, and like, unfortunately, that's not going to come, like, super easy to those who don't, like, have to, like, just in them.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of practice. Make sure that, like, after, you know, a session or two with a party or with a group that you're new to or something like that, like, be like, hey, like, if I'm talking too much, let me know, guys. I won't be mad about it. If you want some spotlight, let me know, because, like, I don't know unless you tell me. I think I've heard you say this, Jim, before, where, like, you like to talk.
Yeah.
You like to give descriptions. If you feel like if you're doing it too much, please tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beat does the same thing. Or like, if she has a certain character and there are a lot, people give the warning, like, hey, like, if I'm being too much, tell me. I'll pull back. I usually give the same warnings for my, like, big characters as well. So, like, if you're playing, like, a big lot of spotlight character, give that warning, because, like, you will also find groups where the players don't want the spotlight much. I played it in campaign that petered out because I figured I was going to be in a group of people who would be wanting the spotlight. So I made a background character. And then Beat made a background character. And then our other friend made a background character. And then our other friend made a background character. And, like, we kind of floundered for a bit, and then the DM kind of lost the motivation to play it. So a lot of it will boil down to talk to your other players, talk to your DM. Try to figure out social cues. Like, if you hear somebody go or like start to make a noise and then stop. Stop yourself from continuing on and go, sorry, were you trying to say something? You know, stuff like that. Or if you notice like a big scene happening between two other people and somebody else is trying to get a word in edgewise, if you can also get your foot in the door there and be like, sorry, I think X person was trying to say something,
And
that can definitely help.
yeah, and I also wanted to bring up there was a very great segment on one of Dropout's shows called Make Some Noise, where Brendan Lee Mulligan had to do the problem character or the problem player at a D&D table. And just watch that segment. Don't do that. just don't do it. Just if just imagine that segment in your head, and if it sounds like someone is doing that, or you feel like you're doing that, just don't. Just don't. And I will link that segment. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Just don't be like that. Next question, and I think this is the one of the like bigger questions that we had. How do you convince friends to play other systems if they only want to play one system? Or how do you get friends into TTRPGs in the first place? Also, what to do in the situation where, for example, you have one player whose interest mainly in roleplay with not too hard combat, but another player who wants to crunch numbers. How do you deal with power imbalance, and how do you run a campaign to satisfy both?
I think it'd be good to separate this into two different questions. So let's answer this first one first.
Yep.
You want to give your answer on that while I run to the bathroom really fast?
Yeah, go ahead. So I think the way that I would get people to play other systems is you ask them, like, just straight up, just be like, hey, I know we've been playing a lot of D&D, but maybe after this session is done, or maybe after this session of Monster of the Week is done, we try something different. And there is no way, I think, to just, like, get people to play other systems. Like, some people are just interested in D&D. I know some people who just want to play D&D. I know some people who just want to play Monster of the Week. I know some people who just want to play Gloomhaven. I know some people who just want to play Vampire. Like, the cool thing about tabletop RPGs for me is that there's something for everybody. You know, there's a lot of things, and that can be overwhelming, but there's also tons of things for everyone. There's tons of niche tabletops, you know, for people to play. And I don't think there is a way to convince people other than just being like, hey, we've been having fun with this system. Let's try something else. And then maybe if your normal table doesn't want to play, say you play D&D and you really want to try out Vampire, and the other people at your table don't want to try out Vampire. You know, there's a lot of different places where you can go that have Vampire tables running, and you could play with those people. Or, you know, I think, in my experience, you know, if you're running a table full of, you know, good friends, you know, if you're running a table full of your friends are more likely to say, okay, yeah, let's try something, you know, than just people that you don't know. But, oh my God.
All right. Sorry, I'm back.
No, you're good. You're good.
I agree with everything you said. I will also add, though, so my friend Chuck, I live with him now, but every time I'd come down to Ohio, I would have some new game I'm playing or like something to like show to him, right? And he would always end up buying the game by the end of me talking about it. But I got so good at selling him games that in like within the last year or so, all I would have to do is go, hey Chuck, have you seen this game? And he'd already be pulling it up on Steam. And he'd already be looking at it and he'd be like, yep, that's for me. Or my favorite was like recently-ish, I was like, hey Chuck, so we can skip all the rigmarole of my usual spiel and you can just like buy the game so you can start downloading it. Because we both know how this is going to end. I'm going to sell you on this game. I'm really good at convincing people of things. But again, this is something that's more of like a thing I can just do. It's not something I've like consciously made an effort to do. But I think like the advice I can give on this is find a selling point you think would be great for like that specific person or for the group as a whole, or that you think might even be good for like in general. My selling point for Wild Seas is chainsaw boats. You live in a world covered in trees, and the islands are like chunks of rock pushed up to the tops of the trees. Nobody knows what's at the bottom, and people sail around on boats made of chainsaws. That sounds sick. I would play a system like that. I do play a system like that.
Yeah. And for you, this is a very specific jazz selling point for Wild Seas. You can go, I'm in the book. Look.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah. I'm physically in the book. There's art of me in the book. I need to memorize what page it is, so every time I say that, I can like plug it and be like, yeah, I'm on page such and such. But yeah, I'm literally in the book. There's art of me in the book. But yeah, or like if I know I want to like sell a game to my usual group of friends I hang out with, great one is Cyberpunk, right? If I want to sell Cyberpunk Red to my usual player group, well, all I need to say is, this game is so good, Beep enjoys the combat.
That in of itself is like, I'm like, what do you mean Beep enjoys combat? What do you mean? And this will trail into the second part of the question too. But the second part of the first part of the question, that's easy to follow for the people that are listening, I'm sure. How do you get friends into TTRPGs in the first place? So, and I've come to realize this because I've tried to get some people who were not into TTRPGs into TTRPGs. And I like to say that tabletop is for everyone. But there are some people that it just doesn't tickle the brain juice. And I think you got to kind of become aware of that, you know, just as a person that's into it in the space. Like, I still firmly believe that TTRPGs are for everyone and everyone should like them, because to me they are one of the ultimate forms of expression in the gaming world. Because it's like, you like RPGs? Well, what about an RPG where you can be your character instead of just building one from a character creation screen? You know, and if I was going to sell D&D to someone, I'd be like, have you ever wanted to sit around a table and create your own story with like 4 of your friends? And like create new friendships and do badass combat stuff and, you know, write your own fantasy story or sci-fi story. You know, does that have merit to you? Then you'd probably like D&D. Then you'd probably like Cyberpunk Red. Then you'd probably like Pathfinder. Then you'd probably like Starfinder or Monster of the Week or whatever. Does writing your own story with your friends intrigue you at all? Because that to me is what tabletop RPGing is. It's not so much even doing big damage. It's not so much even like the role playing. It is like forging your own story with 3 or 4 people that you give a shit about.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's important to know, like, much like therapy, if somebody doesn't want to be there, they're not going to be there. You know,
they're not going to want to be there
physically. They might show up, but they're not going to enjoy it, right? Like, I have seen so many people drag their girlfriends to their first D&D game, and the girlfriend doesn't want to be there, and they're not really enjoying it. They're not having a great time. I mean, I invited Bean out to one of her first D&D games, and she didn't have a great time because she only said yes out of like obligation or like wanting to spend time with me, right? But like when it became something that she had like wanted to do, and then we like worked with her to make a character she wanted to play, where she played a frog with a lance that rode around on a dog. She had an amazing time. She loved it. So like getting your friends into it, you just gotta like find the right way to get them into it. Find the right like play style, find the right DM, become the right DM, find the right system. Because again, there's so many systems out there. D&D isn't the penultimate system. It is not the system. It is a great catch-all. It's a great like. this is probably going to fit a lot of your interests, but some people don't like D&D. I mean, like even I have mediocre feelings about D&D 5e. I just play it because that's like what everyone is playing. I don't hate it, but it's like it's all right.
Mm-hmm. It's
So like,
it's cheese pizza.
Yeah, like it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta find like what's going to work for your friend, for yourself, for your group. Convince them through one way or another to like solidly give it a try, and make sure it's not an obligation. By making it an obligation, a lot of people will shut down on it, especially if your friend that you're trying to get into it has ADHD. They probably also have ADA, which I forget what that stands for, but it basically, you know that feeling when you're like getting up to do the dishes, and then somebody says, "Hey, do the dishes," and now you cannot physically do the dishes, like you can't.
Yeah.
ADA is that, but like all the time. If somebody has told you to do something, you physically can't, or like it is painful to, or like it will ruin your day to do that thing. A lot of people with ADHD also have ADA or some variants thereof. So like, don't make it an obligation. Just make it a, hey, I would like to try this out, or I would like for you to try this out if you would like to. It's all right if you don't want to. I still can do it without you.
Yeah, and like I said, and to touch on what Jask said, like it's got to be fun for all of you, right? Because if your friend goes into it and they're not having a good time, they're not going to want to come back to it again, you know. And I think, like I said, I think it is possible for everyone to like D&D. You just have to figure out what it is that they want and do those things.
One last mark I have to put here, and this is as somebody who is guilty of doing this, y'all. Don't drag your girlfriends into playing the game if they don't want to play it. Don't. You know why?
Or anyone, really.
Like, or anyone, but like it's mostly like the girlfriends, I guess boyfriends too, if that's like they friends, whatever. Don't drag your significant other into a TTRPG that they aren't interested in doing. If they want to, invite them to come hang out, right? So that they can like do their own thing, play on a Switch, surf TikTok, what have you, as long as they're not, disrupting the game. So what's going to happen is they're going to come in, they're not going to have fun, they're going to not understand what's going on, and they're going to drag down the game, and now you've affected the whole table. You want your partner there? Just bring them along and have them like ask them to do other things while you play for a little bit.
Yeah, and then they might see the game and see you go crazy over like, oh my god, I've killed the wizard Shmebulock.
Exactly.
And then they're like, hey.
In watching, but only when they want to watch, they might become emotionally invested, as opposed to being forced to play this game because like you brought them here, they made the character, they're at the table, they're rolling the dice, they might as well just fucking do it. Now they're not going to get emotionally invested as easily.
And I think, well, there's the second part of that question. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you do in situations where, for example, there's one player who's interested mainly in roleplay with not too hard combat, and one player who wants to crunch numbers? How do you deal with the power imbalance, and how do you run a campaign to satisfy both? Jask, you have experience in this.
I sure fucking do, because you and Beep sit at the same table frequently.
Hello.
This question might as well just have said, also, what do you do in situations, for example, you have Beep at your table, but also Jim at your table?
Yes.
How do you deal with power imbalance, and how do you run the campaign to satisfy both?
It's me.
Fun fact about that, the power imbalance there usually solves itself. You have Jim, who wants to do the chunkiest damage to something, right? Who wants to hit the thing really hard.
It's true.
And you have Beep, who, and I shit you not, during a combat against a big enemy, started a picnic. Jim is doing enough damage for two people. The power imbalance is literally solving itself by having those players at the table. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure that there is roleplay to be had in the combat to satisfy the player who doesn't want to do the combat. Anytime that I am doing a combat I am making sure there's something for Beep to do. Now, recently I've learned if I give her a gun, it's like giving a baby who's crying a pacifier. And she is taken to stuffing things into her blunderbuss and firing out whatever can fit into its muzzle. But like giving her the ability to start a picnic with her little creatures that she's adopted, or giving an NPC to interact with, or letting her go off on some like mini adventure while everybody else fights the creature. Or sometimes she does have to fight the thing, but she's allowed to be like silly goofy with it and walk on the walls because she's got slippers of spider climb, or she's cast spider climb on herself. Just make sure that like it doesn't have to always, but give some roleplay things to be done in the combat while the crunchy boys take care of the crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll satisfy both. Like I said, the power imbalance solves itself because the player who's only interested in the roleplay with not too hard a combat, they don't want to do the combat. So having a character that is strong enough for 2 people fixes that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like Jess said, as the person who crunches the numbers, I mean, I do that. The reason why I am that way is specifically because I enjoy doing it, but also because I know that I can facilitate other players doing shit while I'm sitting up here taking a beating, Like, other people can do what they want to do because they don't have to focus on hitting the giant meat blob that's killing me, If they don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So
now what I actually find is more problematic is when you have 2 boys BOI, like non-gendered, 2 boys who want the big numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them has built the bigger numbers by a long shot. The second one can sometimes, depending on the person, get upset about it. I won't go into like when or who or why, but I have personally seen it recently where a person came in thinking they were going to be like the bee's knees on damage. That this boss fight was going to be a breeze. That was going to be done in seconds. But they came in and they did some damage. They did like really good damage, and then the other person did like 2 to 3 times the damage they did, and like cameras were on. You could see them get upset. They didn't take it out on anyone. They didn't like get resentful, but you could see them like stop enjoying themselves.
And I mean, like, I don't want to be the best. Like, see, that's the difference that I have. Like, I don't want to be the best. I just want to do big bonk. Like when my turn comes around, if I'm hitting them for double-digit damage, I'm happy.
Yeah, if I was playing Grok and you were playing Eugene, and we both like hit something, and I did like 96 and you did 74, you still feel good.
Yeah, we still collectively did like almost 150 damage. Like,
yeah,
like we good. We up in this. We them boys. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get mad at your other party members because they bonk harder than you do. Okay, we are a bonkers union. We are bonk legion. Okay, all right. We are many, but we are one. We are one solid bonk on top of the head. Okay, and I mean just bonk. Okay. Because in D&D, you got bonkers and you got non-bonkers. And if you want to be a bonker, you have to understand all the other bonkers are your brothers, okay?
Yes,
and
exactly.
sisters, and non-gendered family units, okay? And we are a band of brothers who bonk in solidarity, okay? It's not a dick lengthening contest, all right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just because I bonk harder than you do doesn't make my e-peen bigger, all right? God, go play League of Legends. Just fucking I say as a League of Legends player. Like
I was going to say, didn't you just ask me to try out a League of Legends thing with you?
Yes. Yes, like you want to get mad about who bonks harder, go play fucking League of Legends. Anyway,
But yeah, I think that answers that question.
Yeah. And I think the last one we have is, well, there's a few,
Yeah, there's a few more.
Yeah. But there's this one, Theater of the Mind versus maps and minifigures. So I don't have too much to say on this. I like both. I like, there is a time for Theater of the Mind and there is a time for maps and minifigures. If you are playing a character that has a lot of spells or a lot of attacks that have specific distances and everything like that, then I like using maps and minifigures, not only for the fact that I like seeing little miniatures of my characters and I like having maps, you know, but I also like that I can physically see the distance between people, you know? Whereas if you're just playing a party full of melee fighters that don't really have many things, it's just like, hey, am I close enough to hit this guy? Okay, I hit him. Am I close enough to shoot this guy? Okay, I shoot him. You know?
Yeah.
Like so, there are times for both.
Yeah. As a DM who also suffers from chronic depression that runs in my family, and also probably all the fucked up shit I've been through, Theater of the Mind is great because zero effort. You don't need to prep a map. You don't need to get minis together. You don't need to like do any of the extra work that comes with the maps, minifigures, stuff like that. And also, I just have a preference for Theater of the Mind. I like things to be a little loosey-goosey. However, with that preference stated, I will say it very much so depends on the group you're playing with. If you're the DM. Because there are some players who need that crunch or who like wants that crunch of like where things are at currently. Like something I've had to like curtail a little bit is that I would in Theater of the Mind play go, yeah, you're roughly in 40 feet. No, the player wants to know where they're at. So like they need to know like where they're at. And at that point, like you might as well just make a map. Because like there was somebody who I played with, and I won't go into the campaign because they might become obvious, and you know stuff like that. And I'm not looking to drag somebody, but they played a paladin who they would spend actual double digits in minutes, 10 to 15. I mean, one time their turn took 30, but like that was an extreme case. 10 to 15 minutes asking the DM every little detail about the battlefield, where each and every enemy was, what each and every enemy just did, what each and every enemy looks like, what the ground is made of, what the walls have on them, what the roof above us looks like. All these little details, the current air quality, how much pollen's in the air, right? every single detail.
DM, what's the UV index today?
Right.
Like
every single detail about the battlefield. And they would have to re-ask this every time because they're not paying attention when it's not their turn. And then after he's done and satisfied, and he's got like a map of the battlefield in his mind space, in his think meat, he then goes, all right, well, I'm going to approach the nearest enemy and hit them. Sir, you could have just fucking done that.
My mind palace for the bonk time. Indeed. just like, but see, okay, so like, I understand that, right? I understand like the need for actual crunchy 3D stuff, because my main thing is I love just looking at shit. Like, that's part of the reason why I like Tailspire so much, is I love seeing a map. I love seeing my little dude move through the map. Like if I could play a campaign where everything was mapped out and it was physical, and we went to a place and they had just a room filled with like 3D Warhammer-esque maps that you could actually move your little dude around in, like, that's heaven. That's great. Yeah. Like, you know, but that also takes time, you know?
Yeah. As a player, maps are great. As a DM, maps, like, they are a lot of extra effort. And like, again, with chronic depression, I like something I dread, right, is I don't want to start using maps for a campaign, and then my depression hit really bad, and I'm barely being able to eke out the energy to run the campaign. And I stopped using maps, and now the players like feel like they're losing out on it or something like that. Like it fills me with dread to get the players like started on using maps and then stop.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like, and it makes a lot of sense for that specific like circumstance. But there's also, and I love Theater of the Mind. Like I love campaigns that are just like that's what it is. But there's also a part of me that's like I love picking up my little dude and scooting him around and.
And on the topic of that man though, it would be different if his turns didn't just always amount to okay, I walk up to the next nearest enemy and hit them, right? If he's asking every last detail about the battlefield, and then every once in a while made a tactical decision that wasn't I smacked the nearest man, then I wouldn't be like salty about it because like clearly he's just trying to figure out what the tactics are. But no, it was fucking every detail. What the fuck is that rug made out of? Okay, well I'm gonna go up and hit this guy.
Is it a jute rug? Shit. Who made this rug? Old man Jenkins. Fuck, man. Okay. I walk up and I hit him.
Judging from the trajectory of the moon and the sun, I hit the guy.
Yeah. The sun was in my eyes. That's why I asked you where the moon was. That's why I missed. Shit.
Or like a recent addition to my tables, Nick. He like has a really hard time like visualizing the current combat situation, and so maps really help him with that. So with him, I'm going to be trying to use maps more often.
Yeah, it really just depends on the players, I think.
Yeah, so like that's the end all here is that like it really boils down to the players. If I have to have a table with somebody who's like nitty gritty about the exact location of everyone, like you know somebody that we have in Hecna or like the guy that I was just talking about, then I will just start using maps for them.
All right, so the next question, let me see if I can pull up the next question here. Where did it go?
I've got it up. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Your wife asks, evolution of tabletop visuals from lead figures on a grid like war games to plastic to 3D printed to purely digital? Question mark. That is not a question. That is more of a statement. Yeah. But I think they're like wanting to like know like my thoughts on that evolution. I guess, or our thoughts. It's fucking cool.
Yeah. No. The fact that you know what really gets me is AD&D didn't have dice.
Yeah.
Like Gary Gygax put 20 slips of paper into a bag, and you would shake up the bag and pull out a number. Like, I want to do that. I want to revert to monkey. Like I want to ooh, bag and paper and bag. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like
that brings new meaning to the term fishing for a crit.
D&D's come a long way. I think like the current map situation is amazing. Like first off, like without getting into the digital space, we have gone from you know having to go to your local hobby store and picking up a mini that like loosely identifies your character. Like, oh, I found like a tiefling monk mini, and like, yeah, it looks nothing like my tiefling monk, but it's a tiefling monk. To Hero Forge, where like, unless your character looks wild, you can make them. Like, I have a tiefling wizard, Yorl, who I can't make on Hero Forge because of the true mess that he is. But, like, I can make almost any other character on Hero Forge.
Yeah, here, just let me craft my son out of ones and zeros real quick.
Yeah.
And then I can make him a mini, like, you know.
And then you can get that printed and painted for you, even. And then sent to you. And that's fucking amazing. That's so cool, the distance we've gone now. And then also, with 3D printers becoming more and more accessible as time goes on, people are going to start being able to print their own minis, and that's so fucking cool. It's becoming much more like reasonable to have a mini that's like exactly your character.
Yeah, like
Um,
we're two steps away from being able to like actually go into a VR and
we're not even 2 steps
yeah,
away. There is VR
yeah, I
tabletops.
mean it exists, but like it's not like full dive like fucking I'm
It's
moving
not full
around and here
dive.
it is, but like we're literally like a hair's breadth away from that, which
Yeah,
is insane to me.
like we have VR tabletops where like the players are actually the minis, and like it's you're playing D&D via that, and that's so fucking cool. Or like purely digital, like Tailspire is an amazing thing on Steam. If you're a listener and you don't have Tailspire and you play D&D a lot, look at Tailspire. It does cost money. Um, Technically everyone that's playing kind of needs it, but also you could just like what I do is if I'm running a Tailspire game, either myself or one of the players will stream the map to the Discord so that everybody can still see it even if they don't have Tailspire. Because you can take your Hero Forge mini that you've made and port them into Tailspire. And Tailspire is advanced enough to notice certain paints that you've used. So, for example, my Cyberpunk Red character, who wears street fashion and has glowing parts on his clothing, I used fire paint on those parts. So those parts are like a bright color on the paint. But when you bring it over into Tailspire, in the dark, those parts actually light up. And
I
that's fucking cool.
I did the same thing with Cedric for Strahd. He's using Sun Sword, the Sunblade from Strahd specifically. And when
Yeah.
I made a longsword that has a glowing blade, and the blade actually glows in Tailspire. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's just neat. We've come a long way from like not even using dice to getting lead poisoning from your own figures, to like having plastic minis that are like generic, your Furbolg druid or tiefling monk or a human fighter, um, to now being able to 3D print and make your own and then port in digital things on uh, a vast array of digital tabletops.
Yep. And I mean, in 5 years, like, who's to say?
Yeah.
Like when I'm 35, like I don't even know what the D&D landscape's going to look like, and that's I don't even know. I can't even quantify it because it's beautiful. The state of tabletop right now is so customizable that
Mm-hmm.
I find it to be like this just unending this wellspring of like I can make whatever I want, you know, and it's great. Like the creation aspect of tabletop is in a great place right now.
Yes. I want to circle back to the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go on to the next question though.
Yeah.
So why are Pathfinder scales different from D&D 5 foot grid? I don't remember Pathfinder scaling. When I played Pathfinder, it was all theater of the mind, and we went real loosey goosey with the distance. So couldn't answer that question. I don't remember it. It's been too long since I played Pathfinder. First off, and second off, we didn't use battle maps. We used theater of the mind, and we were really loosey goosey with the range. So no idea. I wish I could answer this for you. I can't. I vaguely remember Starfinder having a hexagon map for space battles specifically.
Yeah.
It's 5 foot grids otherwise, but space battles were hexagon, and that was just because of how they were trying to differentiate space battles from foot battle.
The only reason I can think of having a 10-foot grid is so you scale down the size of your maps.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's really the only reason I can think of, like actually having a bigger grid is so that your characters don't move as much, and so your battle maps can be smaller.
Yeah.
Because instead of moving, let's say, like 5-foot grid, instead of moving, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, instead of moving 6 squares, you only move 3 because it's a 10-foot square. So,
Yeah, it just gets messy when you have things that reduce movement speed by like 5.
Exactly.
But yeah. So next question would be: I heard at one point they were considering changing the measurements in D&D from what they are now to metric. What are the pros and cons of this? In addition to the obvious, if they did ever change them. Cyberpunk Red uses the metric.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to use. The problem will be, one, the community getting into an uproar just because the US be like that.
Yeah. US don't use metric system and they don't want to have to learn something.
Yeah.
But
And two, it will make it hard for people to visualize
mhm,
the distance.
yeah.
But that's not that bad. Like, especially if you're using a battle map, that's not a big problem. They'll
Yeah.
get used to it.
Yeah, if it's theater of the mind, like you said, you just be loosey-goosey about the distance. Like, because, I don't know, how many meters am I away, Jess? How many kilometers?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you'll be loosey-goosey for theater of the mind, but you're going to be doing that anyways if you're using theater of the mind.
Mhm.
And for the battle map, the difference is not going to be noticeable. You're going to learn how many meters are in a square, and then that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. It'd basically be the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
once you learn how many meters your character can move and how many meters one square equal on ground, that's all,
Yep. And that's literally how I'm learning meters through Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
Your movement speed is your move stat. That's how many squares you can move, and everything is measured in meters. So like, I'll move my 7 squares and then get out the measuring tool. And Tailspire, by the way, allows you to swap between whatever measurement type you want. So then it kind of has it set to meters in that campaign. And I'll get out my measuring tool and just measure between myself and that guy. Oh, it's 13 meters. I can handle my shotgun easy. It's not. It wouldn't be a hard one. It would just be a messy one because people would be messy about it.
Mm-hmm. And then the last question from you: shopping episode versus just double checking the higher cost rarity items with the DM and fast forwarding through. I like shopping episodes sometimes.
Yes. That's the important part of that.
Yes.
Because I like shopping episodes sometimes.
Yes. Because sometimes it's fun to just go be like, all right, we're going to go see this really cool shopkeeper that the DM has put time and effort into, or...
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just like, I don't want to do a shopping episode today. Grimguzzle goes to the market and gets five hammers, and that's it. Like there's a time for it and a time for not. Depending on what the table is looking like, because I like the idea of going to a shop and you meet the shopkeeper and the shopkeeper's like, hello, I have this sword of goodness and power. And you're like 500 gold. And then your character's like 300 gold. And he's like, persuasion check. And then you roll persuasion. And it's like, that's fun sometimes. But then
exactly.
But then there are other times when you just want to be like, all right, I go to the store, I buy 20 arrows and a ham sandwich, I come back.
I think what really does it is, are you looking to just stock up mundane items? Then we don't need a shopping episode.
Mm-hmm.
We don't.
But
if you want to try to get a discount, just roll me a persuasion check. I'll tell you what your discount is.
Yeah.
We don't need a shopping episode for mundane items. But if you're hunting down a really cool weapon or item, then we can do a shopping episode. Or let's say that you're wanting to look around and shop around. Yeah, that's a shopping episode. Or my favorite thing I've recently started doing, I've made this NPC. They're a raccoon with a shop stall. They sit on a stool. They have this shop stall. It's shoddily made, and there's just a bunch of junk on top of the shelf of this stall, and a bunch of junk around the stall itself. The raccoon only makes chittering raccoon noises and then slaps the table a few times. I have had some people recently trying to figure out what the slapping means. It is just noise. Mm-hmm. He is just making noise. Same thing with his chittering noises that he makes. That is somebody has the ability to understand animal language, and they found out that he is just making the raccoon equivalent of mouth noises. It is literally just a raccoon going ah woo wah wah ba ba ba. And he's got a little water basin next to him, and if you give him gold, he will put it into the water basin, wash the gold, put it away, and then give you an item. I have learned if I want to slow down my party, if I need them to get distracted by something, if I need to like buy time because I've realized, oh shit, I didn't prepare for this session, I can't let them get too far ahead because I will just have to ad lib from this instead of like reading from this book. I'll put this raccoon in front of them, and that's all they're doing for the whole fucking session.
Raccoon, man. I give him a gold. He washes the gold. He gives me a shoe.
Yeah, and all the items, by the way, are magical, but they're like useless magic, right? With some of them, like if you give him a lot of money, he will give you like good stuff that's not useless, but like most of it's useless stuff. So like, great example is the Wand of the Phoenix. It's a big red, yellow, and orange wand. It's got a phoenix motif on it. It looks really cool and powerful. When you like check it with detect magic, it's got massive evocation and conjuration vibes, like almost blinding. And then you use it, and the wand burns up in your hands, and then from the ashes forms a new wand.
Indeed. Put on your war paint. That was a Fall Out Boy reference. But you know, I love designing shopkeepers.
Yes.
So like I like shopping episodes as a DM because I'm like, okay, well he like let's say they're going to the Arcane Tome store. Okay, well am I going to make him a fuddy duddy? You know, he talks like this, like goes around and like oh you're looking for Saint Dredrick's manual on bread. Like I've had that for 40 years. I had to grab it, and, or am I gonna make it like you come in and there's a knoll that runs up like a used bookshop that's just books in crates, and you got to dig through the books and figure out what you're looking for, Or I love like making shopkeepers that are memorable. Like
yes, absolutely.
Like in Aeon Terra, one of the shopkeepers that you could go and see in the Caliber Concord was the main like blacksmith guy was also the shopkeeper. So they would go to him just to hear me talk in the dwarf voice and like ask him about mundane stuff. And then they found out that he has a motorcycle, and like so the artificer would ask him about motorcycle shit, and just like he became basically like hey Bran, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad day. Like let me go sit and talk to this dad blacksmith man who's not a dad, but for some reason we think he's a dad. Like all of my shopkeepers have somehow like elicited some sort of like feeling from the party, and they're like he gives us stuff but he's also cool, Or like I had one guy that he was a Fletcher named Fletcher, and he goes, yeah, everyone makes the joke, go ahead. Like, what do you need, arrows? Okay, of course you do. Like just like super like not happy with his job. Like, my parents named me. Why do you think they named me? Oh, we make arrows. Oh, you're so funny. Okay, how many you want? And they were like, I want to go annoy Fletcher. And like I love making shopkeepers. They're just fun. Because there's so much you can do with them, and the party always seems to gravitate towards a shopkeeper because they sell them things, Yeah. And it's like, ooh, let me reach into the container and pull out the glowing red ball, like the squeaky toys. Let me jingle the keys in front of them real quick, like your raccoon guy.
Yeah. Let me tell you, you want your party to go fucking frothing at the mouth feral? Give them a raccoon that sells loot boxes.
The loot box raccoon.
So in my Zizix campaign I'm currently running for a party, there's a man named Ruff. He's really bad with his money. It's a canon thing. It's really funny. And he's spending a bunch of money at this raccoon, and then he was like, man, I wish I could like spend more money, but I don't know like what I would do. Like I don't want to just keep loading up on these like trinkets. And the raccoon just slid a piece of paper covered in like ink paw prints all over, and there's a clear line to sign, and he just went ahead and did. And he watched 10 gold leave his pocket, wash itself in the basin, and then come to the raccoon where he put it away. The raccoon picked up a box and handed it to him. And I had him roll a few rolls and informed him that he just bought a subscription loot box from this raccoon, and every month he's going to lose 10 gold and gain a box of random trinket magic items.
You just...
And he went feral. He was so excited. He bought like two more of the basic ones, and then he asked the raccoon if he had a premium subscription, and the raccoon did.
He asked the raccoon if he had a premium, and the raccoon's just like, abada babada.
Yeah, exactly.
Apata, apatapa. The raccoon of wisdom. Raccoon of wisdom, what is your wisdom? Buy my loot boxes.
But yeah, so I think the end all closer on that question would be based on your party. Mm-hmm. If you have a bunch of murder hobo crunchy men, they're not gonna have fun with a shopping episode unless they're committing murders. But at that point, then you have a whole different problem. It's not a shopping episode anymore.
It is a shopping episode. It's a looting episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the end of the questions. So yeah. I think that's the end of the first episode.
Yeah. There was something I had wanted to circle on, and so that we could close out on that energy.
Yep.
I'm so excited for the future of TTRPGs.
Yes, me too. 100%.
So excited.
Everything's just getting... There are some things that are getting worse, but almost everything's getting better. And that's insane.
Everything that gets worse, like 2 more things spring up that are better, right? Like 1 D&D, right? Fuck 1 D&D, honestly. There's a reason why we aren't breaking down the most recent 1 D&D playtest. I don't plan to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna if I'm continuing to run D&D, it's gonna be on 5e.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the the Triangle Agency.
Yeah.
TTRPG that's coming out soon, which scratches all the good itches.
And then the Old Gods of Appalachia RPG.
Old Gods of Appalachia RPG. There's the fact that you can actually boot up, and I mean it's hard to do because who's gonna have an entire party of people who have a VR system, right? But you can actually put on your VR system and get into a virtual tabletop where you are the mini, moving around on the board, and you can see the DM or the toon representation of the DM moving stuff around and changing things and telling the story, and they can put in special effects. It's so cool. There's the future of D&D is bright, or not even D&D. The future of TTRPGs is bright. I'm very excited for it. I just wanted to leave off on that note.
Indeed. Well, this has been a great episode. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I certainly did. There will be more room for questions. I really hope we can do a question segment every episode with at least 2 or 3. I wanted to get the initial ones out of the way because there were so many for the first episode, and I really wanted to touch on all of them. But thank you to all of you who have left questions. Thank you to all of you who go to the Patreon. Thank you to all of you who go to the Ko-fis of both me and Jess. Thank you to everyone who show up to the tables, I should say. And thank you all for listening. And we'll see you later at a certain point in time. Goodbye.